Hello, I am Andy Zaltzman, and I'm here to bid an extremely unfond farewell to the year 2020 in this, the Best of the News Quiz annual compilation. At 1 second past midnight on the 1st of January 2020, as always, I sealed my predictions for the year in this locked envelope. Let's see how close I was. Right, okay. Nope, that didn't happen, nor did that. No, I did not qualify for the Olympics. Not my fault, really. No, the Queen did not whip out a lightsaber at the state opening of Parliament. Abraham Lincoln did not win the US election via Ouija board. Oh, there were more than 0 catastrophic global pandemics. Oh, but I did get one right. Prime Minister Cummings did not quite last the year. Instead, what we have seen has been a year of heartbreak, confusion, floundering, community spirit, community division, incompetence, brilliance, blame, counterblame, statistical embafflement, a disappointing quantity of masks, you can interpret that however you want, a realisation that Premier League footballers are not 200 times more useful than nurses and care workers, despite what their pay packet suggests, and obviously Elon Musk implanted wireless technology in the brains of pigs. That one I should have predicted. For the news quiz, this has been the year of 3 hosts, beginning in January with Nish Kumar back in the before times, when we still had things like a live audience in a recording studio, and when the biggest thing we had to worry about was the triflingly irrelevant prospect of a world war breaking out.
Helen, how did President Trump start the new year with a bang?
Basically what happened is that the US carried out a drone strike on an Iranian general called Qasem Soleimani, who was from the Quds Force, which is the part of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that makes the rest of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard go, those are some bad lads. And then Iran got very annoyed and threatened all kinds of retribution. And what that amounted to in the end was it fired some missiles at a US base in Iraq, which hit a helicopter, an empty hangar, and there was a great sentence in the NYT report which said, the attack also destroyed several tents. And I thought, I've been on holidays in Norfolk where the rain has done that, come on. So it was kind of on a geopolitical level about a midway between basically slamming your bedroom door and the tense, silent car ride home from your in-laws after Christmas.
I mean, it feels like you're speaking from very recent experience.
No. My in-laws who listen to this show are nothing but a delight. Thank you very much, Nish.
Now, amidst the swirling tides of history, some things remain reassuringly immovable pillars of our national life, and January showed once again that one of these things, always there, whatever shifts and changes may occur, is squabbling in the royal family.
And we'll never be royal.
Alan, whose departure has caused a right royal rumpus?
I think it might be Meghan and Harry's departure from the royal family. They've decided, it feels like one of those jobs that you can't quit, doesn't it, being in the royal family? And I think they might be about to learn that.
Mark, you're one of the nation's great royalists.
Yes.
How has this news impacted on your life?
Yeah, on this occasion, I sort of thought, I don't know, I'd never thought I'd have sympathy with one of them, but I think I can understand. The newspapers seem to be, lots of newspapers are very angry. You can understand why. Because some newspapers have spent the last 2 years going, Meghan, you can sod off. You're an outsider, you modern, upstart, feminist coming in here, spoiling our royal family. Get out. How dare you be who you are. Off. And now they're going, how dare she sod off? Dare she? And fulfil your duty of being here so we can tell you to sod off.
As January turned to late January, however, the story that would define the year, and in many ways the current state of our famous world-beating species, was hoving gradually, increasingly unignorably towards centre stage, as pointed out concisely by Andrew Maxwell.
Why are we not talking about the coronavirus? It's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Do you know, apart from the people who obviously died and have suffered from the actual coronavirus, the people who I really feel sorry for in all this is the marketing department of Corona. It's a nightmare. Just in Mexico City going, oh, please stop calling it the coronavirus. Oh, you laugh, but where's leprosy lemonade now?
Susie, who's been flying to flee the flu?
This is about the coronavirus, which is causing an ongoing health emergency in China and now potentially the rest of the world. In fact, there's been a couple of confirmed cases in the UK today, so we're going to have to see.
The good thing is that the professor in charge is a bloke called Larry Brilliant. And genuinely,
I think that's a lot of pressure in meetings, isn't it? And there's also a lot of scope for people to sound sarcastic. But they say, "So, Professor Brilliant, what's your plan?"
These are the flights evacuating foreign citizens out of Wuhan in China, the epicentre of the coronavirus outbreaks. Starbucks has closed 2,000 of its Chinese branches after reports of a flat white turned out to be an extremely ill tourist.
That clip was from the show on the 31st of January, which was also Brexit Day. Insert your own cheer, boo, or other reaction here. The UK officially handed in its badge and its gun at the EU and set up on its own, causing great rejoicing amongst the entire 17.4 million strong population of Brex Britannia.
At present, EU regulations ban the use of cleaning disinfectants on food, but after Brexit, anything is possible. Salmon dipped in window lean, bacon drenched in Sillet Bang, lamb chops covered in Jif. Yeah, that's right, I said Jif, not Sif. We're taking back control and the opal fruits are on me.
Brexit then, all over bar the shouting. And the shouting back, and the negotiating, or the post-Brexit trade deals, and the future relationship with the EU, and the actually putting anything into practice bit, and the decades-long social and economic repercussions, and the potential breakup of the UK, and, of course, the rebooting, most importantly, of Empire Mark II, and the cold-eyed verdict of history. That can all wait. Rather charmingly, in hindsight, given that this proved to be a year in which we ended up spending almost all of our time not travelling anywhere, transport was all over the news early in the year.
Kerry, who's looking to build bridges with their transport plans?
Oh, there's loads of transport going on.
So much transport.
Loads of it. So HS2 is on.
It's on.
Boris is up for it. He's like, let's do it. The suspense is over. He's gung-ho. He wants it, despite all the facts, like spiralling budgets and engineering concerns and environmental distresses. He's like, no, let's do it. Because he just likes building stuff, except consensus and relationships. I can sympathise. Everybody knows that the North urgently does need a vastly upgraded travel connectivity, but east to west.
Yeah.
So people need to get across the Pennines from Leeds to Manchester, Huddersfield to Liverpool. So obviously a high-speed train from London to Birmingham is the perfect solution.
Yeah.
But, also, he's on a roll with structural erections because he's actually still mulling the Ireland-Scotland Bridge.
Yes, that's
which
right.
It's
yes.
exciting. I mean, many people dismiss that as a bonkers pipe dream, a vanity project, but he is not listening. He reminds me of my ex-boyfriend when we went travelling. He tried to go up Ben Nevis in flip-flops. he was on mushrooms. He was like, your negativity is holding me back.
Bern, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about the bridge between Scotland and Ireland?
Oh, I'm very excited. I think Scotland and Northern Ireland should be one country. We both love sectarianism. We care more about that than hating people based on race and class. We love drinking. We have the same strange faces. Basically have the same accent. But I don't know what Boris's motivation for it is. Like, why does he care so much about it? Because doesn't it just mean that we can get together more easily to plot to, like, leave the precious union?
Late in 2019, of course, there had been a general election which brought the alleged leadership of Jeremy Corbyn to an end for the Labour Party. But who would replace him?
Lucy, who is being asked leading questions?
It is the Labour leadership contest. I was reading about this and an insider at the Labour Party said, we're just looking for someone who's more popular with the electorate than Jeremy Corbyn. Which, that is the definition of setting the bar low, isn't it? You know, we want somebody who's more popular than Jeremy. It's the kind of New Year's resolution I make, you know, just like, I'm not going to eat chocolate while I'm asleep, you know. I'll tell you some of the runners and riders. So Keir Starmer is the favourite, Sir Keir Starmer, but he doesn't like you to call him Sir, although I would.
In the end, the contest was won by hotshot lawyer and donkey aficionado Keir Starmer, who told the party to, quote, get serious about winning. But is Labour really ready for such a controversial, radical departure from recent tradition? It's like Europe for the Conservatives. Some say it's time to move on, but for others in Labour, losing elections is a fundamental issue of identity. I guess time will tell. As had been so widely predicted, 2020 did prove to be an election year in the USA, a nation riven by division and derision. The Democrats had to choose a candidate to take on the dubious honour of running against the high priest of horrendous politics himself, Donald Trump.
Ellis, who's showing their primary colours?
Nish. I've got big news from America. Bernie Sanders won the New Hampshire primary this week.
Sure.
So New Hampshire primary, which sounds like somewhere I'd send my daughter.
Eventually, in the primaries, the Democrats plumped for Joe Biden, deciding to fight rambling septuagenarian with rambling septuagenarian, cleverly undermining Trump's key point of difference against younger, less rambling opponents. Coherence, of course, the kryptonite of modern politics. As both the renowned month of February and the first news quiz series of the year drew to a close, it was already becoming apparent that the US election would not be the big story of the year, and that there were difficult times ahead.
Angela, whose dire warning has gone viral? Who? The WHO?
This is the World Health Organization, I assume you're talking about. Saying that the coronavirus could reach pandemic levels. It hasn't yet, but then this is the day before this goes out, so who knows?
The News Quiz annual schedule is, of course, carefully calibrated to coincide with the 23 or 24 weeks of the year when all the big stuff happens. And in between, we just kick back for the fallow months and watch the cricket. I assume that's how it goes anyway. I did check that with Miles Jupp. This year, however, was not a normal year. By the time Series 2 began in April, everything had changed everywhere, including at News Quiz Towers. A lack of audience. Angela Barnes hosted panellists sitting in their own living rooms, stroke bedrooms, stroke toilets, stroke cupboards, stroke fridges, stroke secret dungeons in at least one case.
Hello and welcome to the News Quiz. Well, I won't lie, I didn't expect to be chairing Radio 4's flagship topical comedy panel show via a video call from a duvet fort in my living room, but then I also imagined I'd have trousers on. It is indeed a brave new world. Now, there are, of course, plus points to recording the News Quiz in this way. For instance, I'm able to drink this gin straight from the bottle rather than have it disguised as a water jug on the table. So it really is swings and roundabouts. Tom Allen, I have to say, has rocked up. We're all looking at each other on Zoom. Obviously, the people at home can't see us. But Tom Allen's rocked up in a full three-piece suit and pocket square. I'm really impressed.
We did a sound check earlier, I don't mind telling the listeners, and I'd just been for a run. And then I came back and I thought, no, I can't go on the BBC. Even in this unprecedented time, I cannot go on the BBC not wearing a suit. So
Desiree Birch, where are you joining us from?
I am joining you from my bedroom, the most sound-dampened room in my place, mostly because it's covered in piles of laundry, the clean right next to the dirty, because I like to live on the edge. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, now we've had a glimpse into your horrifying lives. Let's crack on with the show.
Meanwhile, in the outside world, COVID rapidly upheaved all of our ways of life, and we tried to adjust to what some people wrongly called the new normal. It was, in fact, the temporarily tolerable abnormal, a world of painful separation, facial covering, homeschooling, condescending slogans, and one-way systems in shops. What times we have lived in.
And shops are going to have to implement sort of one-way systems, which I don't shop like that. I don't shop in any sort of ordered way. I'm scattergun, you know, so IKEA are obviously rubbing their hands together going, we've been doing this for a long time.
Anyone who thinks a one-way system is effective has never been to Swindon.
No, God.
I know the first thing I'm going to buy. I'm going to go into M&S and buy one of those big hooped dresses that Queen Victoria used to wear. Like it's your own 2-metre exclusion zone.
When was the last time you were in Marks and Sparks?
Politically, COVID turned out to be that most difficult of modern issues, one that could not simply be dealt with just by shouting, spouting and pouting, calling people names and general broad-stroke hogwashery. It was rather a fiendishly difficult question with absolutely no right answers. There were different levels of wrong answer, of course, which were fully explored, I think it's fair to say, as the government sprang into action like a heavily sedated boa constrictor trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. There was simply no way this could end well. Boris Johnson himself fell seriously ill, but recovered to take charge of our national effort not really to beat the virus, but at least to reduce the margin of defeat.
So this is the news that Boris Johnson is back at work just 18 days after nearly dying of COVID-19 and 36 hours after his fiancée gave birth to his 6th child. Is it just me, or is his term of office starting to feel like it's being produced by the Hollyoaks team? 2 points to Kiri.
Even loyal pro-Johnson newspapers were at times fiercely critical of the Prime Minister. As the old saying goes, a government advisor is like a puppy. You need to house train it, or it ends up basically running the entire house and making a real mess of the carpets, or at least driving the length of the country to go to Barnard Castle to do its business whilst infected with COVID and being a behind-the-scenes Machiavellian power wielder in a government that was telling everyone else to stay at home. Naughty Dominic. Naughty, naughty Dominic. No treats for you.
And whose instincts have caused a stink?
Well, this is about the Prime Minister's chief advisor and his comings and goings. You see what I did there? That was very clever.
Very good.
Now, you better buckle in because this is a long and complicated story, I'm afraid. It starts with his wife having the symptoms of COVID. So he went home to see her, then went to work to make sure that everyone at work caught it as well. And then, as if that weren't enough, they decided to drive a long, long way from London to County Durham. And then, when rumbled about this, claimed that everything he did was within the letter and the spirits of the rules. And that is just the normal part of this story because it gets a lot weirder.
This is, of course, the news that Dominic Cummings took a trip to Durham during lockdown, which, for the sake of BBC impartiality, is neither good nor bad. It's just a thing that happened. You know, like when the Titanic sunk. 2 points to Anna.
Well, let he or she who has never driven 60 miles with their child in the back of the car to test their eyesight cast the first stone. As we waited for the magic of modern science to laboratorise our way out of this crisis, our main weapon against it was irritating slogans, which were splurted out with alarming regularity. Things like stay alert, shut up, stop asking questions, look over there, oops upside your head, and I plotted all my life to become Prime Minister, and all I got was this lousy pandemic.
Can you tell us what stay alert means? I've never not been alert, right? I want to dial 999 when my neighbour's cat doesn't get home by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, what? How are we supposed to be doing this?
Well, that sounds perfect. Surely you're incredibly alert. You're poised at any moment to throw yourself on anyone who looks like they might be able to sneeze.
Series 2 came to an end just after the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, a landmark tragedy in America's and the world's stumbling journey towards a more equal planet, and a proper reckoning of how the societies we live in today were shaped by history. As the old saying goes, the past is a foreign country, and like many other foreign countries, we tend to only like to visit the nicest bits that have been smartened up and commercialised for tourists.
Sophie, which protests matter?
Angela, so many protests matter. The protests of my neighbours when I practice TikTok dances in the garden, the protests of Dominic Cummings' optician, as he clings for dear life in the passenger seat. But the protests which matter this week are all to do with the big scary R. And I'm not talking R numbers, I'm talking racism. I talk racism a lot, and there's a sound that I often hear when I start to talk about racism, a little, and that is the sound of the entire audience's sphincters clapping shut at once. So, dear white people, please unclench. It's my job to be funny for money. I know stand-ups don't get on live at the Apollo with gags about systemic racism, at least not yet, but don't worry, I'll keep it light. Obviously not, literally.
Over the next couple of months, Donald Trump soothed the open wounds of American society with a trademark presidential massage using his well-used rusty cheese graters of divisiveness as gloves, dipped in his own brand chili vinegar balm of public provocation. Here, in Bristol, a statue of Edward Colston, a late 19th century monument to a late 17th century slave trader, philanthropist and platinum-grade exemplifier of the unavoidable awkwardness of history, became a living work of art, entitled Uncomfortably Contradictory Figure from Our Past Goes for Non-Voluntary Swim. It was a curious time. British history was discussed and examined more publicly than at any time that I can remember, whilst many people said, oh, no, you cannot rewrite history, particularly not after we took so much time and effort rewriting it to only include the bits we liked in the first place. The news quiz returned in September. We averaged out Series 1 and 2 in that we had an audience, but we were still recording in our bedrooms, sheds and dungeons. Well, and as you may have just heard at home, joining us this series, a big welcome back for the first time since the before times to a live audience. Outside in the land of COVID-zania, not a great deal had changed in a year of enveloping, re-looping misery. The government, in the absence of anything better to do, was sticking with its plan of absolutely Pompeying people with an unending Vesuvius of confusing and contradictory regulations, which, to be fair, did work for Pompeii. Those people did not leave their homes for almost 2,000 years.
Well, I don't know. Nobody knows, love. I mean, it's 6 in, 6 out, 3 together, 3 hiding in the cupboard. I don't know. I mean, nobody actually knows anymore what the restrictions are. I think if you live in the northeast, you can meet in a group of 6 as long as there's at least one womble and a toad somewhere near the vicinity. You can't meet outside in the garden because, of course, it's now October and cold up north, so you will die because none of them have got a coat. If you live down south, you can meet different families, but only if you want to and only if they're from the same class. So it's a very confusing situation.
That's been in place for a long time, that rule.
We had reached a strange point in the legal history of the UK during the autumn as COVID rumbled on and Brexit grumbled on. Mingling became illegal, whilst breaking international law became legal. Odd times. Perhaps the moment that most encapsulated the madness of 2020, however, came when Health Secretary Matthew Hancock advised people not to kill their grannies. Now, for me, this was the nanny state gone mad. Let people make their own decisions. The state should not interfere in British people's personal choices over whether or not they freely commit grand matricide. And that was not the only questionable advice being dispensed to an understandably increasingly sceptical public.
Elsewhere at the Tory party conference, another question for you. This goes to both teams. What did Chancellor Rishi Sunak vow to use to help people find new jobs?
Oh, is this the website where you can answer questions and it will tell you what you're going to retrain as? Because everyone I know has come back saying that they should be a boxer.
Yes, well, I mean...
Apparently huge boxer shortage. That's the one thing that this country really needs to set us on the path to greatness. More people who can smack other people in the face.
Across the Atlantic, President Trump, simultaneously the world's most and least American thing, was struggling in the pre-election polls. This was largely due to having dealt with the COVID pandemic very much as you would expect him to deal with it, with an almost spiritual devotion to toxic incompetence. As the election approached, Trump was, experts said, trying to project strength, or at least to project the kind of weakness that idiots think is strength.
And this question goes to Team Fingers. And we're crossing the Atlantic for this one. Donald Trump described his bout of COVID as what?
I think he said that he thinks it was a blessing from God, I think.
Yes, correct.
And we should not be afraid of it.
Yes. And did you find that inspirational, Lloyd?
Well, I was worried at first because I saw the headline, AIDS test positive for coronavirus, and I thought, wow, this is serious. But it was AIDS with an E.
Whilst we're on the subject of the reverberating echoes of 2016, Brexit, despite having been got done, had not yet been got done. But as the great Swedish philosophers Anderson, Falskjog, Lindstad and Ulvaeus famously sang, breaking up is never easy, I know, but I chose 4 years ago to go, and I'm still working out exactly the implications and logistics of going.
See, the problem is, the reason why it could be a little bit scanty, the possibility of an amazing trade deal, is because of fish.
Right. Fish.
It all comes down to fish. See, my fellow teammates and panellists, see if you can name the 5 fish that Brits actually eat. Have a guess.
I didn't expect a fish naming competition.
Well, there you go.
Nobody expects a fish naming competition.
We're in extraordinary times, Alice. Extraordinary times.
We're brushed up on a fish.
Guess your fish. What are the 5 fish that Brits like to eat?
Cod.
Cod, correct.
Fish fingers.
That's cod. Actually, that's pollock. That's actually pollock.
The language.
So, 4 more. The answer is tuna, prawns, haddock, and salmon. Now, so they're the 5 things that Brits actually eat from the waters, except for the salmon, and that's even a minority of it. None of it's off the British coast. The number 1 fish that's on the British coast that the European Union fishermen like fishing, and the British fishermen fish, and then sell into the EU, is mackerel. And nobody eats it. I mean, it'll be, a little bit maybe on a starter menu in a gastropub, but none of them are open. So, in conclusion, can you not see how the British are completely at a loss in this issue? Britain is free to catch the mackerel, but then doesn't eat the mackerel.
Okay, so if we eat more mackerel, that will justify Brexit. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it would.
Andrew, I just want to add, as a foreigner, I can now understand why the Brussels negotiations are taking 5 years.
Just time for a final round of questions to see out 2020. These go to all the hosts and panellists we've had on the show this year, and please answer using only words you have said on the news quiz in 2020. Start the clock. As well as bleach, what combination of food and drink did Donald Trump claim would make you immune to COVID?
It's very, very complex.
Put on a metal chainmail glove and
tried to got Ben Nevis in flip-flops.
Whilst dressed as a tree.
With Satan. And say a sausage roll, please.
Correct. What was the secret way of landing a multi-million-pound contract from the British government to supply medical equipment despite having no relevant experience or expertise?
Specifically, an aubergine.
Fish fingers.
A helicopter, vodka and...
The oldest living chicken.
Correct. You could also have had be buddies with someone in cabinet. An ancient Greek oracle reportedly told the government it could pay for the cost of COVID and Brexit if it sold which group of people to a Russian oil tycoon?
Everyone in Buckingham Palace.
And people are really angry that they didn't tell the Queen.
Boris is up for it. He's like, let's do it.
No one's surprised.
Correct. What slogan should have been the government's main COVID slogan this year?
Beset with incompetence.
Despite all the facts.
Complacency. 1.
A proper cull.
Correct. And we're out of time. Well done to everyone involved. And one final news quiz question for you, our listeners, to see out the last abysmal 12 months. Pencils at the ready. Here's your question. How the hell did all that happen? Please send your answers in an envelope marked Verdict of History at any point in the next 100 to 150 years. Just time to write down my predictions for 2021. Let's hope they're more accurate than my 2020 efforts. I predict that 2021 will be a better year than 2020. Not saying the margin yet, but I'm quite confident that I will be right. Brexit will be sorted out by doling out 68 million virtual reality headsets to everyone in Britain, so we can all live out the future that we want. The obvious solution all along. Thank you, technology. I predict that America will finally realise the error of its ways and apply to rejoin the United Kingdom after a well-meaning but ultimately doomed 245-year experiment. And finally, I predict that several leading brands of smart speaker will mysteriously begin to respond only to the name Vladimir. Right, I'll pop them in the safe until this time next year. We will be back next week with the first News Quiz reaction to 2021. In the meantime, thank you to Nish, Angela, all our guest panellists, writers and production team, and to you, the listeners. And a significantly happier new year to you all. And we will now, in time-honoured tradition, ceremonially fire the remnants of the year 2020 into space.
10, 9...
The News Quiz Best of 2020
7,
was written and hosted by
6,
me, Andy Zaltzman, and the
5,
producer was Richard Morris.
4,
It was a BBC Studios production.
2, 1...
Clear the area!
Blast off!
Ah, that's better. Good riddance to you, 2020. You will not be missed. Hello. Look, there's no easy way to say this, but we have heard increasing rumours that a complete national sense of humour failure is now imminent. So if you could panic laugh as much as possible over the next 28 minutes, we'll be very grateful on this edition of The News Quiz. Thank you. I am Andy Zaltzman, and seriously, I meant that. This is a genuine concern. There's almost no laughter left in the United Kingdom whatsoever. Please, I mean, that just proves it. Please, however... do not laugh into a jerry can or milk carton or have a fist fight over who gets a laugh first. We have to maintain some vague standards of civilization. This week's teams, we have Team Panic Stations against Team Stationary Panic. On Team Panic Stations, we have Matt Ford and Alan Cochrane. And taking them on Team Stationary Panic, it's Angela Barnes and Lucy Porter. We also have our live online audience. To prove they are live, I will now hold up a copy of today's newspaper. Can you just confirm, audience, this is today's paper? It's a great joke for radio. Great joke for radio.
For the benefit of the tape, you just held up a copy of Razzle.
Well, yes, but this was before the takeover and it was renamed. It was still then known as The Times from June 1899. Well, our first question this week, this can go to both teams. What this week saw the return of Q?
Oh, it's a clever one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It could be Bond.
Yes.
Or it could be the Q. It could be the terrible shortage of something that we're not short of at all, petrol.
Well, they're both correct, but the even more correct answer is the petrol answer. So I'll give you 2 points there. Well done. Did any of you panic buy anything?
I've just enjoyed watching it. It's been like Mad Max with Mondeos. It's been fun.
No, I don't have a car, so it didn't really affect me. But I walked past a petrol station yesterday, and just a loads of strange men scrapping with each other out in the street. Sorry, did I say petrol station? I meant the Labour Party conference.
It's
did lead to one of my favourite ever headlines that I've read in any news story ever, so much so that I've got it written here. A driver pulled a knife on a motorist and was then run over.
Cycle of life.
Don't bring a knife to a car fight, mate. That's my advice.
All the local sort of WhatsApp and Nextdoor and everything have gone absolutely nuts for this. It's brilliant. Because everybody's saying they're not panic buying. They're like, where can I get fuel? I need to take a minibus full of orphaned kittens for dialysis. Because obviously it's all the other people. The other people are being selfish, but not me. And then, yeah, everybody's just like, where's got fuel? And then it's like, oh, yeah, there's, Ickenham. You can get fuel at Ickenham. So everyone goes to Ickenham. And what I have done is you can tell on your sat-navy thing, your Maps app. Because the situation is the petrol stations have either got fuel or they haven't. If they've got it, they're rammed. Oh, well, I remember it with a little rhyme. If the road be red, there's petrol ahead. If the road be green, no fuel to be seen. So...
I've got a similar rhyme. If a man's got a knife and he's coming over, run him over.
People have gone to such lengths to find where the petrol is. I read one story about people following oil tankers as they left refineries to see where they go. And it's like, well, you don't know how far that might be going a full tank of petrol away from your house. How's that helping you?
I think you should just have to make a new life wherever you get stuck, really. Let's just...
That's how the British Empire started. I mean, but to put it in context, you say there's a fine line between panic buying and being sensible, and the difference is it's panicking when other people are doing it. But to put it in context, I mean, people have been prepared to spend hours and hours queuing for fuel and risk missing 2, maybe even 3 new Britney Spears documentaries. But just how much people really genuinely need this fuel.
I mean, thinking about it is actually quite close to the perfect crisis for the British. There's no real danger, and it involves queuing. It's absolutely right where we want to be.
But I mean, can we really expect people to remain calm in a situation after all we've been through in the last 18 months? I mean, we're all a bit scarred, aren't we? And I mean, I still wake up in a cold sweat having recurring nightmares about that first week of lockdown when the shops ran out of pasta and I had to make a lasagna using 85 rolls of toilet paper. It's so hard to keep it al dente.
Are we going to just do a shout out to the army who might be stepping in to help this? Because that's apparently one of the ways that they're going to fix this. Now, I'm no military expert, but that sounds like a way easier job as a person in the army than like a couple of months ago when they were in Kabul. A few weeks ago I was fighting the Taliban, and today I'm driving a lorry in the Lake District eating Yorkies. What a bloody result.
Yeah, when you put it like that, I think I'd rather be in Kabul.
It's like we'll be bringing the army, try and attract foreign workers with visas and stuff. It's like, I love the fact they go, we've got to attract foreign workers, but we've also got to sort of satisfy our base and not really want the foreigners in. So what we'll do is we'll get them in and then we'll send them back on Christmas Eve, which is at the most magical time of the year. We're going to send them back and we're going to tell their children there's no Santa Claus and stamp on their Toblerones. We're just going to...
It'd be like that Coca-Cola advert, but the other way round.
Yes, so this is the fuel crisis. Much of Britain has been gripped by petroleum panic this week as people showed exactly how much they trust the words of our government, who said there was no shortage of fuel and no need to panic buy, at which point an estimated 68 million of us got in our cars and went straight to the nearest petrol station. There were chaotic scenes of scuffles, I tell you, at service stations. A man pulled out a knife after another car jumped into the queue ahead of him because, while we talk about how much the British public loves to queue, we also underplay how much we love violent overreaction as well. People have been reportedly filling their cars with the wrong fuel because how different can it be? Will strawberry milkshake work, or maybe a Bulgarian Cabernet Sauvignon? I mean, what is wine if not unmatured crude oil? Besides, liquid is liquid. My car is thirsty. Let it drink. I should point out you can actually put petrol in a diesel car, but only once. At the end of that round, it's 3 to Team Stationary Panic, Angela and Lucy, 2 to Team Panic Stations, Matt and Alan. Moving on to our next question, this can go to Matt and Alan. Who was left shaken but not stirred this week?
Well, that's another one that could be both, couldn't it? It could be James Bond, or it could be Keir Starmer, because he got heckled, didn't he?
Well, that's close enough. I'll give you a point. I was really looking for the Labour Party.
Oh.
Shaken by rabid infighting, but not particularly stirred by Keir Starmer's speech. Matt, you've been involved in the Labour Party in the past. How did you enjoy conference? Is it still called a conference? Is it just a mega bicker these days?
Well, I didn't go this year. But I thought it looked quite good on the telly, actually. I think Keir Starmer did really well. I thought he handled the heckles very well. Didn't get angry, stayed calm. I mean, as a comedian, I'd have liked him to use some standard heckle put-downs. I think that would have been good. You know, when people started heckling him about Palestine, I'd have liked to see him say, yeah, save your breath, mate. You'll need it to inflate your girlfriend later.
I mean, the gags were very good. It was, as a comedian, you had to say that speech. My dad was a toolmaker, as I suppose was Boris Johnson's. Top notch, absolutely. It was because I thought, I was worried about it, because when he's inevitably ousted, I thought he's going to either have to go back to being a lawyer or just become a knitwear model. But actually, stand-up comedian now.
It does make you despair, doesn't it? The infighting in the Labour Party is so embarrassing to watch. I just think if they were a family, they'd have a social worker by now.
I mean, I think they want to be in touch with the British public, and they looked at the British public this week and went, well, everybody's fighting each other and going nowhere, let's do that.
Matt, is there any chance of Labour? Because it seems to me that essentially the Labour Party is two separate parties that are wedged together by the demands of the first past the post system, in the same way that the Conservatives are. The Conservatives are better at ignoring it for the ultimate goal of power. Is there any way that Labour can learn to get along with itself?
I mean, this is part of the problem, is that people say about party unity, but it's very hard to unite with people that don't want to win an election. It's like saying, well, Spurs should pick people who are super morbidly obese. And you think, well, there has to be a door policy if you're serious about actually winning something.
Yeah, that only worked with Gaza.
What you have to remember as well is some people will just never be happy. So they'll find every reason to be annoyed with Keir Starmer, who I think most of the public look at and think is a very sensible, calm, decent guy who gives off an air of professionalism and competence. And they're really things that the Labour Party hasn't done for about 11 years. And some of the criticisms of him, Richard Bergen, who's a Corbynista MP, he said people don't want pints and fish and chips. They want transformative politics. Now, firstly, I think he's wrong. Secondly, I think free fish and chips was in the last Labour Party manifesto. And thirdly, what a joyless take on life! My wife doesn't want champagne on our anniversary. She wants a state-owned green bank issuing bonds to fund a workers' collective.
I've expressed on this programme before, I can't really talk about Keir Starmer's speech because I do fancy him. And it's, anything I have to say is coloured by that. But I also quite fancy Jeremy Corbyn. I think it is, I've got a type and it's powerlessness that attracts me.
You can't build a relationship on sympathy.
How do you feel about Mr. Bean, Lucy?
I did like he got a 3-word catchphrase in as well. He's got his gags, he had his catchphrase, make Brexit work. It's very much in vogue, isn't it? The whole build back better, get Brexit done, make Brexit work. I would like politics to use longer catchphrases. I think, something like, with a lip smacking, thirst quenching, ace tasting, good buzzing, hard talking, Tory bashing Labour Party.
Let's look in a little more detail at what Starmer specifically said. I've got some snippets from his speech with some words taken out. Now, our panellists get 1 point if they can tell me what he actually said, and 2 points if they can tell me what I've decided he should have said. So, for example, to take someone else's speech, Greta Thunberg this week said blah, blah, and then if you take out the last word, it was blah, where it should have been blah, blah, Blasputin, clearly. So another example from Starmer's speech would be this.
We guarantee that every young person gets to see a...
Let's find out what he actually said.
We guarantee that every young person gets to see a careers advisor.
But what he should have said was world-ending apocalypse. So let's throw this to our panellists. First, I can go to Matt and Alan on Team Panic Stations. Here's the quote.
I've spent my entire working life trying to get...
So what's the missing words there?
Monday's off.
Any other suggestions?
Was it a little bit taller? He started with platform shoes and then he's got like a rack, but it's just making absolutely no difference.
Not Iraq again, Alan.
Still tearing the Labour Party apart.
Was it I've spent my entire working life trying to get off with a stand-up comedian? Because if it is, you're in luck.
Well, let's find out what he actually said.
I've spent my entire working life trying to get justice done.
Justice done is the correct answer. What he should have said, according to me, is I've spent my entire working life trying to get my own headed notepaper. Quote number 2, this can go to Angela and Lucy.
We want every child to get the chance to...
Is it we want every child to get the chance to drive a lorry, preferably they can start tomorrow?
Is it to have Boris Johnson do a paternity test?
Let's find out what he did actually say.
We want every child to get the chance to play competitive sport and play an instrument.
There we go. Sport and music. What he should have said, of course, was we want every child to get the chance to scream into a void of despair at the world they will inherit. Let's move on. 2 quick ones to finish off.
When I was at school, I had with Fatboy Slim.
Any suggestions?
When I was at school, I had pillow fights in my underwear with
No, it's quite close.
When I was at school, I had a leadership pack like that one Tony and Gordon had with Fatboy Slim.
Could save the Labour Party, Matt. Let's find out what he did say.
When I was at school, I had music lessons with Fatboy Slim.
Music lessons? What he should have said, of course, was when I was at school, I had several erotic time travel escapades with Fatboy Slim. And finally...
I would pay to watch those.
Finally.
I've lost count of how many business leaders have told me that they wish their could be longer.
I've lost count of how many business leaders have told me they wish their mission to space could be longer.
Was it speeches? Because his speech was so long. I thought it was quite bold of him to do a 90-minute long speech, because there is the possibility that some social problems could have been fixed by then.
Let's find out what he did say.
I've lost count of how many business leaders have told me that they wish their time horizon could be longer.
The what now?
Time horizon. Again, speaking the language of the masses. What he should have said, of course, was yachts. That brings us... that concludes the Labour Party round. It is now 5 points all. Moving on, what is winding people up by itself being wound up?
Oh, furlough.
Correct, Matt, yes. How do we think this is going to pan out? At the end of the furlough scheme, the wage subsidy on which over 1 million jobs were still dependent and which has been very generously paid for by our children's children, their children, and the magic faraway money tree that they all live in. Thanks, Litlands. Much appreciated. Do keep the tab open if you don't mind. But how do we think this is going to pan out?
Well, it's very tricky because people talk about the effect on unemployment, but I'm sure any economist listening will back me up on this. One of the key things that furlough kept afloat was Rishi Sunak's popularity. And that is about to come to a sad end.
I mean, it's weird. I sort of forget that people are still on furlough. I've got friends now who've been furloughed for so long, they've changed their LinkedIn profiles to I do jigsaws now. And I do worry about these people, if they do come back to the workforce, they've forgotten how to do their jobs. I don't want a pilot coming back who hasn't flown a plane in 18 months.
When our first child was born, my wife had an epidural, and the nurse said, "This is my first shift for over a year," and her hands were shaking, which was slightly concerning.
To be fair, if I was a nurse, that is a practical joke I would play every single day of my life. There's all this talk about, it's fine because there's loads of jobs. So if people who come off furlough lose their jobs, they can just go into one of them. But it is because it's mostly the travel industry that's been suffering. And you think, you can't get air crew and get them to deliver petrol because they deliver it in those tiny little cups.
Yes, this is the end of the furlough scheme. It's hard to say what's been the greater help to people during the pandemic, the furlough scheme or Netflix's laissez-faire approach to password sharing. The end of the scheme does mean that hundreds of thousands of people face uncertain futures in hard-hit sectors such as hospitality, travel and being Gavin Williamson. Although, of course, if people do lose their current job, they can always sign up to join the army to help bring peace to unstable, conflict-scarred regions, such as the Shell forecourt in Welling, south-east London. It's now 7 points to Team Panic Stations, 5 to Team Stationary Panic. And this question can go to Angela and Lucy on Team Stationary Panic. Amazon said this week that they believe that in 5 to 10 years' time, every home will have at least one what as part of everyday life.
So this is robots in the house, right? And we all panic, don't we, about robots taking over, and I've decided I'm not going to panic. I welcome the robots into my home. I do, because I blame Hollywood has made us go for decades. The rise of AI, the robots are coming, they're going to wipe out humanity, be afraid, they're going to take your jobs, they're going to take over your life. I'm not scared of robots. You don't have to be scared of robots, and here's why. They haven't even worked out how to tick a box that says I am not a robot. This is the new Amazon robot called Astro, which is like it's basically an Alexa on wheels. The only thing I don't like about it is that I don't need to invite something else into my house to judge me. It's like, I saw your cushions were looking a bit tatty, so I've ordered you some new ones. Do you know what I mean? That worries me a bit.
This robot, because they said, it's a security device, basically, it's going to keep your home more secure. But it's going to cost about $1,000 when it comes out. It would be the only thing in our house worth stealing. It didn't have any real practical application. I want it to fold laundry and pair socks is what I want it to do. But it kind of... that was popular. I tell you what, Keir Starmer should have put that in his speech, shouldn't he? That would have been... But yeah, it looks like all it's going to do is just wander aimlessly around the house, and I've got a husband, 2 children and 2 cats that do that already.
I don't like all this Wi-Fi stuff. Everything's Wi-Fi. We had a washing machine that broke, and they sent us a better washing machine that was on the Wi-Fi. And I won't use the Wi-Fi bit because I read an article that apparently that Wi-Fi is insecure. And I don't want Vladimir Putin knowing when I've put a wash on. I already worry enough when I've put trainers in and my wife finds out and tells me off.
It's funny you say that, Alan, because I've got a Wi-Fi enabled tumble dryer, and I got paranoid like you. I thought the Russians are going to hack it, and I think they have, because the other day I took all my laundry out and all the little socks were inside one big one.
Yes, indeed, strap in, humanids. The robots are coming. They're coming over here. They're taking our jobs. We should send them straight back where they came from. The future. Keir Starmer talked about robot surgery in his speech, and Amazon has announced the launch of a household robot called Astro, which it insists is, quote, more than just Alexa on wheels, just in case you were wondering exactly how dystopian to make your nightmares about it. On the official nightmare scale, I think it's 7.9 full Stiltons. The robot will apparently be able to keep an eye on your home whilst you're away and send owners a notification if it detects something unusual, or when it inevitably develops a mind of its own, #matter of time, you idiots, and wants you to witness it vaporising a squirrel, just to remind you who's really in charge of your house now. So, at the end of our robot round, it is 9 points to Team Panic Stations and 7 points to Team Stationary Panic. And our final round this week, which figure, who might seem like a relic from a bygone time, but is surprisingly popular with young people, despite being frankly unrealistic in today's world, got a rapturous reception on his comeback this week?
Well, now it's James Bond, right?
Correct, yes, it is Bond. It is Bond, yes. Well, you could have had Jeremy Corbyn, but James Bond as well. Are you Bond fans?
I mean, it feels... I never really got into it as a kid, and it does feel a bit macho. I mean, obviously some people want it to really modernise, but I don't think you can make him too woke. I mean, it would ruin the catchphrase. The name's Bond, James Bond, pronouns he/him. Mr. Bond, pronouns he/him. I, pronouns they, that, them, have been expecting you, pronouns he/him.
Lucy, would you like to see a Lady Bond, which is coincidentally a government-backed investment in which you buy shares in the Duchess of Kent?
It would. I mean, you know, obviously Keir Starmer's in favour, so I very much am. But I mean, I don't like it. I mean, I'm sort of fairly neutral about the Bond films, but I do think if there's one thing that we Brits sell well, it's problematic men who have issues with women and substance abuse. We've got Bond, we've got Sherlock Holmes. I mean, really, the only non-problematic character we've got is Paddington, and he's not even British; he's Peruvian, isn't he? So, you know.
And what I want to know is in that little suitcase. Yes, this is the new Bond film, No Time to Die, which has finally been released after being delayed by over a year. In fact, it had been delayed so often that it was on the verge of being renationalised. The film finds the, now let me work it out, 91-year-old Secret Service agent with what we must assume is a truly sensational skincare regime on his toughest mission yet, convincing people to pay 15 quid to sit in an enclosed space with 400 strangers for 3 hours. It's the 25th official Bond film, not including non-official Bond movies like Never Say Never Again, Casino Royale, Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Squeakquel, definitely not canonical Bond for me, and those Russ Abbott, Basildon Bond sketches, which I personally think were the best ones. But now, obviously, a film these days is only as good as the cost of the outfits worn at its premiere, so this is a sensational film. And Daniel Craig, not playing by the rules for the fifth and final time, wore a bright pink jacket to the premiere, making him, ironically, the only adult male not dressed as James Bond at the James Bond premiere. That concludes this week's news quiz. We have a tie at 9 points all between Team Panic Stations and Team Stationary Panic. Thanks to Matt Ford and Alan Cochrane, to Angela Barnes and Lucy Porter. Some breaking news just reaching us after the collapse of 3 more energy companies this week to lighten people's mood as the winter approaches and get kids more excited about energy companies. The Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, has launched 3 official energy crisis mascots, Icy, Dicey and Pricey. Icy is a cuddly, disused radiator. Dicey is a half-French, half-British power cable who occasionally catches fire. And Pricey is a gas meter with a threateningly cheeky grin and a big furry eviction order. Fun for all the family. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Andy Zaltzman. Goodbye.
Taking part in the news quiz were Lucy Porter, Alan Cochrane, Angela Barnes and Matt Ford. In the chair was Andy Zaltzman, and additional material was written by Alice Fraser, Max Davis, Heidi Reagan and Tasha Danraj. The producer was Sam Michelle, and it was a BBC Studios production.
mission, Andy Zaltzman, should you choose to accept it, is to find something in the public sector that is working.
Have you got any missions that are a bit less...
Impossible?
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, yeah.
Try this one.
Okay.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to turn a sausage back into a live pig.
It's a bit easy, but have you got anything else?
Can you make Britain a major player in the space industry?
Not this week, mate, no.
Try and make this week's news at least partially entertaining.
That'll have to do. We'll go with that one. Right.
This government will self-destruct in 5
Enough now. It's time for the news quiz. Welcome to the news quiz, the show designed to fit perfectly into the average waiting time in A&E. If you listen to it on a loop 35 times in a row. Our teams this week, we have Team Spare against Team Spare Us. On Team Spare, it's Mark Steele and Aisha Hazarika. On Team Spare Us, it's Ian Smith and Lucy Porter. Our first question goes to Mark and Aisha on Team Spare. Pick the odd 2 out from the following list. Civil servants, nurses, bus workers, ambulance drivers, postal workers, highways agency staff, teachers, driving test examiners, train drivers, border force, billionaires, the DVLA, airport baggage handlers, traffic officers and mermaids.
I suppose it's billionaires and mermaids, just going to say aren't on strike, although they probably are. Although I think mermaid strike would be... I'd love to see that, wouldn't you? As General Secretary of the National Union of Mermaids and Allied Aquatic Mythical Creatures, our members have been sat on rocks up to 17 hours a day in a single shift.
The thing is, mermaids generally self-employed, not very good at coordinating for industrial action. And tragic figures, of course, mermaids, because we never see the full story of mermaid life. It's only the Hollywood myth, not the full harrowing reality of life as a mermaid and the difference in life expectancy between the top half and the bottom half. Aisha, it's a strange time for the government where it seems that basically nothing is working in the public sector and that finger of blame just keeps landing back in their face, having been in power for 12 and a half years.
And yet they are trying to blame everything and everybody rather than themselves. But it is extraordinary that you have got this complete sort of broken Britain right now. Nothing is working. And what the government have decided to do, instead of fixing the problems and paying people properly, they've decided to bring in really draconian anti-strike laws. And so we've gone from clapping nurses to now we're effectively going to sack nurses. And the spin around it is amazing because they've said, no, we're not sacking nurses. We're just going to take away all their employment rights.
How have you been enjoying strike season?
Yeah, you've just got to use your sort of common sense, really. I don't call 999. It must be annoying, though, to have a cardiac arrest to on-hold music.
I mean, there's been talk of people having to wait 90 minutes for an ambulance after calling 999. I guess that makes it important when you call, because you know you're going to have to wait. You want a distraction for those 90 minutes. So try and have your heart attack at the start of a football match. But also, I mean, I know, Ian, you've been looking at the other numbers that we can call in these.
Oh, yeah. So 111 is what you call in a sort of non-emergency case. 999 is emergency. And I was wondering what the other 3-digit numbers mean. 222 is for when your ball has gone into a neighbour's garden. 333 is dairy-based problems. So if you've run out of eggs, milk's gone off. But also metaphorical dairy problems. So if you've put all your eggs in one basket. 444 is for when you can't get a song out of your head. And that's quite a fun one, because when you call them this, you're through to 444, what have you called us 444? It's a bit of fun. 555, BBC Complaints Department. 666, obviously that's satanic stuff. And ITV, they share an office. 777 is for the headaches you get after you've bought someone a present from Lush. And 888 is for injuries, but the sort of injuries that you would shout, "It's only a flesh wound!" Too bad. 999 emergency services, 101010 clairvoyance.
Lucy, we don't seem to have made a great deal of progress. There's not a great deal of public money available? Are there any deal sweeteners you can suggest to get people back to work and solve this crisis?
Well, I always think to get people back to work, I love working here in Broadcasting House because they do the news in the same building, and I once saw Hugh Edwards. So I think if you were to say, look, go back to work, and we might send Hugh Edwards round to see. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have to be Hugh Edwards. It could be any Welsh heartthrob. You could have Michael Sheen, Charlotte Church, Shakin' Stevens. That could encourage people back. I tell you who I was very impressed with this week was Steve Barclay. Incredibly strong work from him, saying that we would pay people in the NHS more if they worked a bit harder. Just, that is a ballsy move, isn't it? You've just got to think, I hope he's in good health. I really do.
Any other suggestions, Vero?
Well, there's this minimum service level that the government is talking about when people strike. I don't know if they've quite understood the concept of a strike causing disruption. Like the whole thing is meant to cause disruption. So basically, I was just kind of thinking, what other areas would we want to have some minimum service? I mean, the government would be nice, wouldn't it?
I think it's brilliant that we're back to old time. That we miss them sort of union leaders. I saw one about 10 years ago at some, I don't remember what it was, making a speech, and he went, you will now be delighted to know that on Twitter, this rally is now trending above Ebola. We've missed people like that, haven't we?
I mean, minimum service levels can mean many different things. Do you have a minimum service level as a comedian? Is there...
I love the idea. I mean, I have a minimum service level in every area of life. My first job actually was in a shoe shop, and my approach to that was someone would come in and say, oh, have you got these in a size 8? And I'd go, I'll just go and check, go out the back, have a Twix, and then come back and say, no, sorry.
That's why we love Britain.
Did you eat Twixes in a shoe shop because they sort of come in pairs as well?
Just on the 999 issue, and this can go to Ian and Lucy. When ambulance workers have been on strike, people have been advised not to call 999 unless they are sure of what?
State of their underwear?
That's really correct.
My mum always told me, you've always got to wear nice pants in case you get run over. If I've got really nice pants on, I think, oh, it's a shame, I should...
So it's not that statistically people wearing nice pants are less likely to get hit by vehicles?
Just, I always give the drivers a little flash at the intersection. Just to see. Is it that you have to be sure that you're dying?
Well, you have to be sure that it's a genuine emergency.
A matter of life or limb.
Yes. As a result, people being sort of encouraged not to call 999 unless it's a massive emergency. People are having to treat themselves at home. Have you got any good home remedies for emergency situations?
I mean, dry shampoo always seems to do very well for me. So I feel like that could be like just a genuine remedy. But I do love the fact that Steve Barclay, the Health Secretary, has urged the public to just be very mindful of the pressure on the NHS. So if you are having a massive cardiac arrest, just do some mindful breathing, maybe just breathe through, maybe light a candle or something like that. Just be mindful, just breathe your way through it.
Be careful not to have accidents on the days of the strikes. It's simply, if I was going to go out bungee jumping just on an elastic band the day of one of the ambulance driver strikes, so I thought, no, I'll leave it until Thursday.
Now, you seem to be suggesting there, Mike, we should get rid of all public services.
Yeah, I think that's they're completely unnecessary if we're just more careful.
Yeah, I mean, this will be the government's new strategy. They'll be like, look, when there are no trains running, there are no train delays. So I think we have found the solution to this conundrum.
Yeah, I don't know if we need any public services. Like bin men, we don't need them. Just legalise fly tipping. What else do we need? Lifeguards. I haven't even got a joke for that. I just don't think we need them. I think teachers, don't need teachers, you just need to give UCAS points to sort of street skills, like setting a fire or having a fist fight with someone for some reduced meat. That's my ideas.
That's the good kind of practical policies for the world we actually live in. Hidebound by idealistic dogma. I think you've got a future in.
All fires go out eventually. So yeah, we don't need a fire service. We just need patience.
Well, the police. What do the police do? Because you know anyone who has ever been burgled or had their car nicked and the police have found it and got it back? Never. Never. Imagine if the fire brigade never, ever, ever put out a fire. But occasionally they did hose down the wrong house.
Rishi Sunak reluctantly admitted this week that he was indeed well enough off to have afforded what?
The UK.
Yeah, apparently the NHS has lost about 20,000 beds over the last few years, but luckily Rishi's got that many in his house. So he said, actually, I've signed up with an NHS GP.
Yes.
Which, I mean, he signed up with an NHS GP in the same way that I have an annual subscription to the gym. But yeah, and then it emerges, of course, that he also goes to see a private GP that charges £250 per consultation. I mean, for that amount, I can tell you what's wrong with you. You've got too much bloody money.
They're richer than the royal family, aren't they? Isn't that right?
I don't know, until we see the final book sales. I don't know if we can...
This story is absolutely ridiculous because this question has hung over Rishi Sunak for quite a long time about whether or not he uses private medical care. And he should have just fessed up and said, yes, and, you know, I'm not ashamed about it. I'm a full-on Thatcherite conservative. She used private health. Instead, he's done this kind of dance of the seven veils. And he basically had an absolute mare on the Laura Kuenssberg show. And it's just so ridiculous. I mean, the thing that's really coming across with Rishi Sunak is everybody was like, he's really like presentable, you know, he's kind of really slick. And now it's like this curse has come upon him. He's sort of like the love child of Zoolander and Alan Partridge.
A final question on our winter of discontent. 1 in 5 police want to do it. Almost 2 in 3 NHS junior doctors have thought about doing it. And almost a third of teachers have been doing it within 5 years of starting the job. What?
Is this going on Love Island?
Not what I've got written down here. Any other suggestions, Ian?
Using handcuffs in the bedroom.
Is this that they have just had enough because they're so exhausted and so weary and they just want to walk away?
Yes, quit. I mean, I've actually looked at the stats here because we have NHS waiting times going up and up and up. Life expectancy has sort of plateaued and gone slightly down. And I've done the maths. And at some point in April 2054, the average NHS waiting time will be longer than the average life expectancy.
So you'll have to book an appointment for your kids before they're born.
Yes, yeah, for your grandkids, actually.
Yeah.
There will be one remaining nurse in the country suspended over the geographic centre of the UK in a hot air balloon with a loud hailer saying, "You're looking fine, eat some spinach."
I just think the queues and the waiting times, and I think if the government ministers just came on and said, look, this is a nightmare, we're all having a terrible time, we're really, really sorry, we chronically underinvested in the NHS and it's all such a horrendous mess. Instead, everything has to have a positive spin. So I had a Tory MP try to sell this to me the other day as I was having a chat with them. They were like, well, the thing is, we do like queuing in this country.
I think if you want to reduce your queuing time, I've only ever gone to A&E just before the clocks go back.
This is the state of the nation. Our winter of discontent continues stroppily onwards. These days, if you hear a politician utter the famous question, crisis, what crisis? It's no longer them denying there is a crisis. It's merely them trying to narrow things down to the specific crisis you want to talk about. After repeated questioning about his use of private healthcare, Rishi Sunak said he is registered with an NHS doctor, but that he has gone private in the past. Now, whether your personal internal headline writing part of your brain interprets this as out-of-touch PM shows deep lack of faith in the health service and unwillingness to slum it with the plebs, or as billionaire frees up NHS capacity for struggling non-billionaire community, that's up to you. I mean, it's no secret that he's well off, and in a wide-ranging interview, Sunak also claimed that he had heard of buses. suggested that he might be prepared to compromise and allow surgeons to take patients home with them at weekends. And he refused to be drawn on whether he owns his own nuclear deterrent or just uses Trident like the rest of us. Sunak was criticised for using a jet when visiting a hospital in Leeds. A Downing Street spokes-excuser justified the move, saying the PM was setting a good example. If people are worried about difficulties getting to hospital in an ambulance, it's always good to have a jet on standby. Responsible leadership. Just some breaking news reaching us about further industrial action. Britain's ghosts have just voted to go on strike. A spokespook for GASP, Ghosts, Apparitions, Spectres and Phantoms, said, aside from declining public belief in us, most people are so haunted by reality these days that we've basically become irrelevant. And at the end of that round, the scores are 3 to Team Spare and 2 to Team Spare Us. Staying within politics, let's go to Aisha and Mark. When is a business not a business, and whose business is it? Whose business it is?
Is this to do with lots of sort of murky money floating around Westminster?
Yes.
So this is Tortoise and Sky News have done some investigation, and they have been trawling through all the databases from different MPs.
What's Tortoise?
It's like a news sort of service. It's like they're very good. They sort of do lots of investigative reporting and things like that.
God, I'm behind, aren't I?
They're meant to be like slow news, so they sort of do lots of kind of long form, slow burn investigations. Right. They're very, very good.
And when they're under attack, all their journalists gather together under shield.
And they've done this investigation looking into what MPs are getting what funding from different organisations. Because if you want to give a donation as an individual, there's certain rules, you have to register it, you have to put a name, you have to be in the electoral register. But now it turns out that lots of people are donating money through these very shady companies. People don't really know very much about them. But I think the biggest shock to everybody, and this really is a huge injustice, is that Theresa May is getting paid millions of pounds for speeches.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very strange world we live in.
If your most famous speech is where you coughed and the backdrop fell down.
And yeah, but she's an amazing dancer. Like,
Is she like a 60s rock star where she goes to do her speeches and everyone says, do the thing where you cough and the backdrop falls? Is it a concern that we have a business that contributes hundreds of thousands of pounds to the Labour Party that lacks the traditional components of a business, such as a website, any staff, or a business? Is that something we should be worried by?
Yeah, it was MPM Connect was the name of the firm, and someone said it's a firm with no obvious line of business, so presumably it's got a massive contract to provide faulty PPE.
Ian, have you ever given hundreds of thousands of pounds to a political party to further your own interests?
No, but I'd love to be in a situation where I could. That's what I'm hoping for. I just don't think it's surprising that businesses are corrupt. Like, I don't think Dr. Pepper even has a PhD.
Yes, it's the story of MPM Connect, which has contributed over £300,000 to Labour MPs, including Yvette Cooper, despite lacking anything you'd expect a business to have, including people. So what could it be funding these MPs for? What does it seek to gain? Well, a cynic might say that a company that does absolutely nothing seems a perfect fit for Starmer's Labour Party. That cynic's cynical friend might add that this story is surely further evidence of Starmer's Labour trying to muscle in on Tory territory, trying to appeal to core Tory voters who like their elected representatives to receive questionable funding from opaque sources. But it certainly highlights once again the unsavoury workings of the Westminster sausage factory. And if you love sausages, what you don't want when you bite into your sausage is for a screen to pop up with a short film showing every stage of the sausage-making process in graphic detail. It's best that we don't know about these things, which is why the ingredients of the British sausage are still covered by the Official Secrets Act. Some might say that we live in a free market economy, and if you are legally entitled to use your or someone else's money to buy, for example, a pencil or an ice cream or a house or a deceitful side of a bus or a newspaper or the ownership and editorial control of a newspaper or a not guilty verdict, then it also stands to reason that you should be able to buy covert influence with politicians. And perhaps it would all be more transparent if politicians were simply forced to wear the logos of the companies that have funded them. Which works very well in Formula One. I mean, sure, there might be some suspiciously Russian-looking logos on some worryingly front-bench overalls, but at least we knew where we stand. And at the end of that round, Team Spare have 5, Team Sparers have 3. Moving on now to the topic we simply had to address at some point this week. Just buzz in with your answers here. It's a multiple choice question. Prince Harry, the professional prince, released his memoir this week. But what is it called? Is it A, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Is it B, How to Completely Alienate Your Family and Massively Split Opinion? Is it C, Medieval Feudalism Ruined My Life? Is it D, Spare? Or is it E, I got frostbite on my plonker and popsicled my Cherrington with a horse lady in the field out the back of a pub and other stories? Any guesses?
Well, it's obviously E. I think it is a fascinating story because, is it 4 years ago? Just think what it was like just before you, when the week of the wedding, and it was all the madness that happens on these occasions every day for a fortnight. All these reporters, Windsor Castle. This is the most exciting moment of the whole of humanity. Nothing has ever been so momentous. It's the royal wedding. Even the worms are a special shiny shade of brown. The birds are tweeting the national anthem, all of this. And then all the homeless were moved out of Windsor, weren't they? Because you can't have people lying around in sleeping bags on the week of a royal wedding. And they were all immediately replaced by these people who sleep in sleeping bags queuing up for 4 days. And then, from about 2 days after the wedding, who does she think she is, bloody Markle? She should be covered in marmalade and wedged into a hive of wasps and things like that.
So it was called Spare. What is that an appropriate title? Would you prefer to be called something else?
I love the fact that it's Spare because it's an heir and a spare, and he's the spare, and it's the rhyme. Because I'm one of 3 children. In our family, the rhyme was first the worst, second the best, third the one with the hairy chest. And I'm the youngest, and it's absolutely true. See, this is why I kind of feel for him, because obviously, the ghostwriter has done an amazing job, because it's all the things we want to read about. It's largely penis chat. But yeah, I feel like he has massively shot himself in the foot with, I don't know who's advising me, Elon Musk, presumably. But I do love the salacious details. The fact that he lost his virginity around the back of a pub to an older woman who liked horses, and everyone's going, it's Claire Balding, isn't it?
He said that woman treated him like a stallion. Is that just combing his hair? I have read the book. I just sort of blitzed it really quickly. There's stuff that hasn't gone in the press, which are mad, some of the details. He claims the royals made him ginger to make him less popular. I think it is weird that if I was him and I was going to use a ghostwriter, I would have chose Diana. She was there.
But
she was there.
the trouble is, Ian, she's on strike.
Yes, this is the publishing sensation of the week. The artist, still currently known as Prince Harry, has been shifting some serious units with his much-trumpeted Warts and More Warts memoir, Spare. The 38-year-old Bartholomew, who has been on the professional printing circuit since his birth in 1984, has revealed the extent of dysfunctionality in the royal family, including his distinctly unbromantic relationship with Prince William. Now, fans of the Norman Conquest will know that Williams and Harolds don't always see eye to eye. But wherever you sit on the monarchy attitude seesaw, from shouldn't we have ditched this nonsense hundreds of years ago to it's all we've got left that defines us as a nation, via not my bag but I'm prepared to tolerate it, this has been a damaging episode for the family that brought us such controversial characters as alleged nephew-murdering car park space hogger Richard III, human barbecue fan Mary I, and Tinder presaging I think I'll swipe down on this one schism whiz Henry VIII. And that round brings the scores level at 8 points all. We'll quickly finish with one final question. This can go to Ian and Lucy. Aside from Prince William's advisors, who else might have said, Cornwall, we have a problem this week?
The UK space mission ended in disappointment. The problem was, in Cornwall, the satellites go on top of the rocket, and in Devon, they go underneath.
So pretty gutsy timing as well to do a rocket launch on the same day of ambulance strikes.
How far did it get?
Not far enough, I think.
I love that. I love that. The rocket suffered an anomaly, and I think that's a phrase that historians will be using when they describe this period in British history. The UK suffered a rather large anomaly.
Do you remember when some school kids, I think in Cornwall, launched a pasty into orbit? That's still currently the UK's most successful space mission.
Yes, this is the UK's first ever attempted satellite launch failed after an anomaly prevented the Virgin Orbit rocket from reaching the Earth's orbit. The launch took place in Newquay in Cornwall. The company had a little preemptively declared the mission a success on Twitter before removing its announcement minutes later when the anomaly anomalised itself, raising a rather interesting modern philosophical question, a kind of tree falling in the forest kind of question. If you've said on social media that a tree has fallen in the forest, does it actually matter if the tree is still standing or never existed? I think they should have just styled it out. The rocket was blasted off of a jumbo jet called Cosmic Girl, which saw off competition from other aeroplanes named after 1990s pop hits, including a Lockheed Martin Macarena and an Airbus A380 called Teletubbies Say Eh-Oh. Further confusion was added to the story when it emerged that a photo tweeted by Business Secretary Grant Shapps of him happily visiting the spaceport had former Prime Minister Boris Johnson eerily removed, whether by Photoshop or by coming from some form of idyllic parallel dimension in which Johnson had never gone into politics and Grant Shapps was about to be blasted into space. That concludes this week's news quiz, and the winners are Team Spare Us, Ian and Lucy, with 10, and Mark and Aisha on Team Spare have 9. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Andy Zaltzman. Goodbye.
Taking part in the news quiz were Lucy Porter, Ian Smith, Aisha Hazarika and Mark Steele. In the chair was Andy Zaltzman, and additional material was written by Alice Fraser, Mike Shepherd, Aidan Fitzmaurice and Jane Gebby. The producer was Georgia Keating, and it was a BBC Studios production.
Hello, I am Andy Zaltzman, and as always before the first news quiz of a new year, I've just been sent the confidential briefing notes on everything that's going to happen in the UK over the next 12 months. Let's have a look. Right, that's interesting. The NHS waiting list to exceed the average human lifespan. The logical endpoint, I guess. Daily Telegraph to be renamed the Saudi Sun. That's... Well, that's interesting. I suppose that's one way of minimising the damage to the royal family's reputation, but will Rwanda want him? And finally, the entire legal system to be fully replaced by the ITV drama department. That is not public domain yet, so can we keep that between us as we unleash another year of the News Quiz? Welcome to 2024. We are almost a quarter of the way through the century now. Our teams this week, after a tricky start to the decade, we have Team Things Can Only Get Better against Team Are You Sure About That? On Team Better, we have Jeff Norcott and Shappy Khorsandi. On Team Are You Sure, Ian Smith and Aisha Hazarika. Our first question goes to Ian and Aisha. Which television programme has brought a national scandal into the spotlight?
The Teletubbies.
Right, okay. Explain.
Not one of them had a TV licence.
No? Any other suggestions? What TV programmes brought a national scandal into the spotlight?
Well, yeah, it's the big post office drama,
correct.
Which I haven't watched, and I'm not going to watch it because I know what happens now.
Right.
I know that it's a serious miscarriage of justice, but what I will say is, so the last time I went to the post office, someone had finished, and I went up to the counter, and the woman there, without looking me in the eye, said, "I'm not ready yet." So I walked back to the queue, and as soon as I got back to the queue, she pressed a thing that went, "Cashier number 4, please." So what I'm saying is, I wouldn't mind if some of them are imprisoned. Some of them deserve it.
when I first heard about a Royal Mail scandal, everyone was like, oh, what's Andrew done now? And also, I find this really, really difficult as a kind of an Asian person, because it was like post office owners versus IT guys, and it was horrible to see my people turn against each other. Very, very uncomfortable. But on one serious note, the thing that is so extraordinary about this is we've had a lot of scandals recently, and this just sums up the British legal system. You've got Michelle Mone, who is innocent until proven guilty, and you have these post office people who are guilty until proved otherwise. It is just absolutely mad.
The real scandal of this is, after all this, they're still using the Horizon thing. They're still using this technology. It's a bit like if in Terminator, they'd have gone, OK, Skynet did become self-aware and tried to kill everyone and everything, but we've had a chat with the programmers, and we think that we've fixed most of the glitches now. It's and you know, with the post office as well, even if they do deliver compensation, they'll probably leave it with a neighbour.
It's incredible how alarm bells weren't set off. Like, Ed Davey is now sort of... he was the postmaster... What was he? The king of the...
King.
He was the king at the time.
He was Postman Pat for 2 years, at the start of the coalition.
He was Postman Pat, and the lack of accountability has been incredible, because he's acting like the entire scandal was a coffee order mix-up, and he's just a bit like, I'm not giving back my knighthood, like, you know, they should have made it an EastEnders plot line or something like that. And the woman, is it Paula Venables? So she was in charge of the post office, and she's actually an Anglican priest. And someone in her position should know how to handle a scandal like this. You don't fire people, you move them to a different parish. I believe that the lesson of this whole episode is do not radicalise ITV audiences, because they know a wrong 'un when they see one. They can sniff out a baddie. Look how quickly they turned on Holly Willoughby. And they decided, no, she came down quicker than Saddam Hussein's statue. And that's why this government has tried to distract them by freezing them in their homes and jacking up their mortgages, because they know how powerful they are.
I think you make a really fair point. I mean, for the Lib Dems, it must have been a weird few days, because up until Friday of last week, their campaign team must have been going, we just need to be part of the conversation. Something, anything. There's literally no such thing as bad press, apart from this. I mean, I think we are finally one step, we're just a bit closer to knowing what Ed Davey sounds like. I think that would be cool. Look, I'll do an Ed Davey impersonation now. Hello. I'm Ed. None of you know if that's good. That might be the best Ed Davey impersonation on the market.
Ed Davey's probably listening to this episode going, he's absolutely nailed my accent.
I think the thing which has been difficult for Ed Davey is that, I mean, to be fair to him, since 1999, when the Horizon thing came in, there have been a lot of Post Office ministers. There's been 7 Labour ministers, 8 Tories and 4 Liberal Democrats. I think the thing that hasn't helped Ed Davey is that his go-to political jiu-jitsu move is to call for everybody to resign as soon as anybody does anything bad. Like, he also loves a stunt, and normally the Liberal Democrats would be like asking for Ed Davey to like resign and like rocking up with a big removals van. But I do think, got to be honest here, the reason why Ed Davey has been hounded is because the Lib Dems are rinsing the Tories in loads of by-elections, and they're going to take away a lot of their votes in the blue wall. So I think we've got to be a bit like alive to that as well.
You see how happy the Tories are that it's not exclusively them that messed up. They're cock a hoop, aren't they? They're high-fiving. Lads, it was only partially us this time. It was only, we may have been predominantly responsible, but we weren't totally responsible. This feels like progress. You know, like if you wake up and you forgot your anniversary, but so is your wife. You're like, excellent. It's this weird thing that it has been around, right? We say, well, why weren't the journalists covering it? There were a lot of reports in it. Why weren't there documentaries? There was one a couple of years ago. So it's sort of some weird combination of Toby Jones's brilliance and it being January. Because if this had been on BritBox, we still wouldn't give a toss. I think as well, you could probably overestimate. Like, it's still got to be a good story. I would love another injustice to be made by ITV. My ongoing battle with Ringwood County Council about a 3 points, a dual carriageway, right? Say dual carriageway, 30 miles an hour, you can't even see a house. How is that a residential area? Now, that doesn't sound good coming from me, but you get Toby Jones saying that.
He's probably listening now. He's like pausing it, rewinding it, just getting your accent, trying to get your mannerisms, but probably not from the radio. I don't know how good an actor he is.
I do think there was something madly ironic about watching the story about huge IT failures on the ITV hub, which is literally the worst streaming platform like terrestrial television. Also, I do feel if there's any karma in the world, the government will carry on using Fujitsu software to calculate the compensations, and they'll mess it up and give more money to the postmasters.
I mean, one thing, like, it does seem that why do all these things take so long to be resolved? If you look at Grenfell, if you look at Hillsborough, you look at the Waspy women, and it's always like successive governments, under successive governments. And I don't really have a joke here, but I don't feel that infused about the next election, to be honest.
And also, like with Grenfell, it's always, like I say, I'm obsessed with the fact that it was an ITV audience that have brought this down. It's like a normal working class audience. It's what it takes to step up, and the sort of people that Rishi, have you seen, like, when he goes through a town centre, he has to have like a little person, he goes through it like the rest of us watch an Attenborough documentary, and he has to have people explaining to him, saying, it's all right, sir, they're just smiling. Just because they're baring their teeth, it doesn't mean they're going to attack you.
But of course, we talked about the villains. Of course, the hero of the piece is Alan Bates. But I think we should be a bit wary about turning Alan Bates into too much of a national hero. I mean, nothing against him, but I just think we need to do some background checks in his immediate family. Do any of them want to build a very expensive spa? Just let me check that. But also, like, of course, he's a massive hero. Now there's this big campaign. There's been this campaign to get Paula Venables to give her CBE back, and there's now a campaign to give him a knighthood. But I just don't think that's enough. I think that's virtue signalling. It's to ease our collective guilt. I think what we've got to do is put Alan Bates in the House of Lords and make him the actual post office minister, because I think he's the only person you can trust to sort out this mess.
You've worked in politics for a long time. Is that not a very dangerous road to go down, putting people with relevant expertise in the House of Lords?
I would say as well, maybe again, this is me coming on the negative side of the post office workers here. But hear me out. 700 people accused. I reckon at least one of them has done it. Yeah. And they will be over the moon with this. One guilty person going, this is fantastic, look for me.
I think you're right. I think it'd be a great time to do a bit of post office fraud, wouldn't it? It's just like, you go, I have done nothing. This is just the corporate establishment trying to tear me down. Go, Jeff, you've got envelopes stuffed down your trousers there. Your legs are massive, mate.
I think for a £600,000 payout, it's now become the most realistic way of me buying a house is to be falsely accused of something. So I'm going to try and get myself falsely accused of something during tonight's recording.
I mean, on the Paula Venables giving her CBE back, does this set an exciting new template that, as well as the New Year's honours list, we could have an official New Year's dishonours list? I think it could work. It could work like the existing honours process. Some would thoroughly deserve to be on the dishonours list. Others would just be randomly picked for nakedly political reasons. Plus, we should have sports people who lose.
Are you talking about promotion and relegation from the Lords? It could definitely make the end of season really interesting as we come... I mean, everybody says it lacks a bit of context. As we come up to recess, you go, still a lot to play for at the bottom there. Lord Winsome of Thames there, he has got a lot of allegations hanging over him. I tell you so, if he could open a church, he could keep this together.
Again, that's sounding dangerously democratic, Jeff.
You know how you can nominate someone you know, like just a normal person in your community that does lots of nice things for an honour? We could do that, but a dishonour list for the guy in my road who saves himself a parking space using wheelie bins. I'm very excited about this.
I like that. Also, maybe for people who haven't yet worked out, you can pull the petrol hose over to the other side of the car.
This is news to me. Across the car?
Right, OK, so...
Wow.
Inform, educate and entertain. The government has this week announced plans to ensure that what is completely cleared by the end of the year? Anyone?
A Tory majority.
So see, well, the convictions are going to clear all the, going to overturn the convictions of postmasters.
yeah.
I mean, Ian, you mentioned you think at least one of the many hundred postmasters is. But do you know, for an extra point, what will postmasters have to do when they get their exoneration and compensation?
What are they going to have to do when they get exonerated? Probably going to have to laser off the face tattoos they got done in prison. It's going to be like Margaret, 53, denouncing gang affiliations. She's got to go back and work in a post office. She shanked 3 people with a toothbrush. She's never going to be the same again.
I mean, the postmistress does sound like a brilliant crime matriarch, doesn't it? That's your next ITV1 drama, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not kicking off in a post office now. If they say, oh, it's £7 for first class, I'm like, that's a bit steep. And then Margaret comes out, 2 dumbbells still in her hand. She goes, you what?
But they're going to have to sign a document saying they're innocent, which I think could be a cost-saving measure for all future court cases.
Yeah. Foolproof. They should get sort of 18 innocent postmasters and 4 guilty postmasters and film them, and the innocent ones have to work out who the guilty ones are. And the guilty ones can kill off innocent ones. I don't know if I've got something else in my head, but I think that'd be a good show.
Yes, indeed, as the old joke goes, what do the convictions of over 700 sub-postmasters have in common with a tortoise in a fluorescent GIMP outfit waggling its legs in the air? They both need to be overturned as soon as possible, and they should not have been allowed to happen in the first place. Former Post Office Chief Executive Paula Vennels has said that she will return her CBE immediately, although with the state of the postal service at the moment, there's a pretty good chance it will end up being popped back through her letterbox in 8 months' time with a random Christmas card, a Pools coupon from the 1980s, and a very confused iguana. But since the broadcast of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, ITV has been inundated with scripts sent in by people hoping to have their historic injustices resolved through the medium of a primetime drama. Alongside Jeff Norcott versus his local council, we have Mrs. Sclutterbridge versus the speed camera, Mr. Wambleterry versus the little bastard from 3 doors down who keeps throwing eggs at my vintage Ford Capri, and most tantalisingly of all, Arsenal versus VAR. At the end of that round, the scores are 3 to Ian and Aisha and 2 to Shappy and Jeff. Right, it's a big year for elections this year. Feel the enthusiasm from our studio audience there. Elections here in the UK, almost certainly, and in the USA. So we're going to do a home or away elections round. Jeff and Shappy?
I'd like to go home, please.
22-46. Not only the year the COVID inquiry is now predicted to end, but also what?
Oh, yeah, it's the poll numbers, isn't it? They are less than perfect for the Tories.
Yes.
It's going to be an election, isn't it? Rishi Sunak has gone balls out. He's nailed his colours to the mast. He said it's going to be sometime in the second half of the year. Unequivocally, probably, that's my working assumption. You're like, working assumption? You're the Prime Minister, mate. You know, that sounds like the kind of thing I'd say to my wife about a domestic chore. I'm like, babe, it is my working assumption that we will clear the Christmas tree backlog sometime in the third quarter. I mean, in a way you could sort of understand his reluctance as a Tory Prime Minister, given the polls. It's sort of like setting a date for being kicked in the balls by an elephant, isn't it? It's like, it's going to happen, but it's going to hurt. And I have to say, the early signs are...
It's amazing what you can book on the internet now.
I got a voucher. I don't know if did anybody see the first PMQs back this week? I think Starmer called Sunak Mr. Nobody, which sounds like the bleakest of Mr. Men. And Sunak called Starmer flip-flop. And you're like, lads, this banter is painful, man. And I was thinking, you know, when they do the live debates, it's going to be a bit like at school, where, you know, when you egged on the 2 biggest nerds to have a fight, and then when they did, everyone felt compromised. Oh, this is... And then when the teachers showed up, they weren't even in a rush to stop it because there was no serious risk of injury.
You're bringing back some horrible memories for me, Jeff.
I mean, he brought back David Cameron. Right, this is the thing. He's really small, OK? He's really small. So the first thing you do is, before Christmas, he picked a fight over marbles. When you look like an 8-year-old schoolboy, don't even mention marbles. And then he picks David Cameron, who's 6'4", to stand next to him. So it sort of looked like Bring Your Dad Back to Work Day. There've been comebacks. I mean, David Cameron came back. Liz Truss tried to come back, didn't she, last year at conference? And you're like, "Whoa, too soon, Liz, too soon." It'd be a bit like if Hugh Edwards on the next series of Masked Singer, wouldn't it? Too soon, You've at least got to do the jungle, mate, you know?
So, I mean, it's a good answer, Jeff. The question was 2246.
Sorry, is this a quiz? Oh, did I jump off on the wrong thing?
No, it is about the election. Can anyone tell me what the numbers 2246 refer to?
It just sounds like a train time, doesn't it? It sounds like a train that's definitely going to get cancelled.
2246, anyone?
I think they might be to do with the Labour Party has quite a commanding lead over the Tory Party at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Is this the percentage who would want Starmer or Sunak as Prime Minister? But that leaves 52% who have just gone, no one. No one is currently the most popular candidate.
The thing is, I'm not like, the idea of a Labour government doesn't sort of like worry me in the way it once did, but I do wish that they have to do something active to win it. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of been handed to them, isn't it? Like, where the Tories have imploded, the SNP have imploded. And it's a bit like, you know, the final scene from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels? It's a bit like, there's Keir Starmer standing there, carnage everywhere, and he's just got a couple of bags going, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're in the clear. I know his voice shouldn't matter, but it does. But it's not. Look, I know it's Radio 4. This isn't the most evolved satire you're ever going to hear. But I get on the one hand, people say like, "Look, Jeff, we had a very charismatic Prime Minister. Look what happened there." But it feels like we're going all the way to a geezer that sort of go on an Amsterdam stag do and see museums. You know, like that.
Well, Rishi Sunak said that if Keir Starmer gets in, we'll be back to square one. I think. What square do you think we're on now? What square? If this was a game of Monopoly, we'd have lost the dice, spilled coffee all over it, and the water company would be covered in human excrement.
Square One sounds like his nickname as a nerd, doesn't it? Like when he speaks, you go, all right, Square One. But
I mean, Aisha, you've worked in Labour strategy. Do you not think with the state of the country at the moment, the Conservatives might just have given Labour the ideal campaign slogan, just back to square one?
Oh, and apparently, like, when it's been focus grouped, people are like, yeah, the idea of kind of erasing the absolute kind of hellscape that we're in right now does sound really, really nice. I mean, it's interesting that Rishi Sunak has sort of said, look, as Jeff said, the working assumption is we're going to have the election in the later part of the year. And I've always thought that because, you know, he doesn't want to go early because the polls are really bad. And also it takes about sort of 7-8 months to reapply for your American green card. So I think...
I mean, Rishi is irritated. Like, that's the problem, isn't it? It sort of seems like he just won a series of Junior Apprentice, doesn't he? Like, hello! He thinks he should win just because he revised enough. I did an all-nighter with Ollie from year 10. That sounds really bad. Take that.
And also, I feel like I'm in safe company to say this, but Rishi really leans into the phrase, the British people.
It is like he's trying to hypnotise you by going, what the British people want, and you're like, I'm a British person. Yeah, I want that. You just being told, they want to vote for us again for another 13 years. Like, we do? Okay.
It's going to be interesting for the Lib Dems to... They've won all these by-elections because they can go round place by place and just say, we'll do whatever you want, because no one knows what their policy platform is. So they go, we're the Lib Dems, we want to build houses. And people go, we don't. They go, that's what I said, we don't want to build houses.
It's like a rare historic opportunity to really obliterate a party. Like, even if you're not sort of massively sort of anti-conservative, it's funny. It's funny to see someone go from the lead to, like, nothing. And I think that's where it's heading. Rishi Sunak did a speech in October at the conference. He apparently used the word change 30 times, and now his message is stick with the plan. And that, I think, shows that in a sort of clever way, he's a man of his word, because he's even changed changing. The concept of changing, he's now changed that to sticking with a plan, which is a change. I like the guy. I also think it's weird that he was having a go at Keir Starmer, and he's saying all Keir Starmer does is snipe from the sidelines. He's the opposition. That's what you do. You're given a sideline to snipe from. And I think even when they say, we haven't heard what Keir Starmer wants to do, I think there's a fairness in that. But also, there hasn't been a general election. You don't need to say anything, really. And also, he's in a position where he's got such a big poll lead that the risk of saying anything, because you don't know how mad his policies are. he could be saying to people, come on, let me say one of them. Like, no, come on, we're in the lead. Right, yeah, but it's a comfortable lead. I could get one out. No, don't say any of these. Come on, let me have one. I've got a podium booked. And he gets out there, it's like, we should be able to have sex with livestock. We're going to relocate everyone by alphabetical order. If your surname begins with A, you live in Berwick.
Anyone switching their radio on at a certain point of Ian's bit there might be thinking, well, the Archers has got very racist. Yeah, the latest opinion poll by YouGov put Labour and the Conservatives neck and neck. Unfortunately for the government, the necks involved belong to, respectively, a giraffe and a hippopotamus that's just had a breeze block dropped on its head from a crane. The YouGov poll also asked who would make the best Prime Minister. Only 20% thought that Keir Starmer would make the best Keir Starmer, whilst 73% thought that Penny Mordaunt should be Rishi Sunak. Starmer has perhaps already reached the point where even incompetently eating a bacon sandwich can't derail his bid. He'd pretty much have to slaughter a piglet with his bare hands in front of a nursery school full of Peppa Pig fans before smearing the blood over his face and saying, "See you in Moscow." Right, so Ian and Aisha, you have the away question. America is bracing itself for an absolute battering from storm election this year. But according to American attorneys general from 27 states, preventing Donald Trump running for president would provoke widespread what?
Common sense.
Well, they can't have that, to be honest.
Use of the word witch hunt.
Almost certainly true, but that's not what was in the legal filing.
Widespread, measured and calm responses.
The answer is chaos. That stopping Trump from running could provoke chaos. What do you think Trump running might provoke?
I mean, it's an incredible choice, isn't it, between two blokes. A bloke that could start a nuclear war out of pettiness and spite, and one that could do it just because he missed his nap.
Is it out of the question that they just rig the election in Biden's favour? Because Trump's accused them of doing that when they haven't done it. If he accuses them of doing it when they have done it, no one's going to believe him. The people who have voted for Biden won't mind. I know I shouldn't be advocating this, but could we not just rig one election?
Yes, America once again this year will come face to face with its own worst enemy, itself. The former British colonial trinket turned global superpower is set for another Biden v Trump presidential showdown. Like so many addicts, America can't help going back to the things that know it will do it harm, in this case, its own decayed democratic process. Whether Trump will be allowed to run at all now depends on a Supreme Court ruling due in February over whether or not the insurrection he insurrected counts as an insurrection or not. So by this time next year, Trump could be set to move into either the White House or a maximum security penitentiary, or both, or a specially reconfigured Oval Office that doubles up as a jail cell. And whilst many have expressed alarm concern that the combined age of the two likely candidates will be tottering at around the 160 mark, to me, the ages of the candidates should be seen as inspiring, because many people have only achieved their most memorable work later in life. Ian Fleming didn't write his first James Bond novel until he was 44. Colonel Sanders didn't open his first KFC until he was in his 60s. Donald Trump didn't incite his first insurrection until he was 74. And even the old Queen Mother didn't record her first grime album until she was 98. That brings us to the end of this week's Quad. The scores are tied. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks to Shappy Sandy and Jeff Norcott, Ian Smith and Aisha Hazarika. I've been Andy Zaltzman. Goodbye.
Taking part in the news quiz were Aisha Hazarika, Shaparak Khorsandi, Jeff Norcott and Ian Smith. In the chair was Andy Zaltzman, and additional material was written by Cody Darler, Jade Gebby and Mike Shepherd. The producer was Sam Holmes, and it was a BBC Studios production for Radio 4.
This is an appeal for calm. I'm Andy Zaltzman. Please send in any spare bits of calm that you don't need. With the world in its current agitated state, any calm you can donate will help. Maybe you can spare a nice cup of tea, a 10-minute sit-down with a colouring book and a snoozing dog, don't draw on the dog, or even an old video of Michael Atherton batting stoically for a draw that the UN could project onto the skies above the Middle East. Proper cricket, nature's purest balm. And to do our bit, here is our specially calmed version of the news quiz. Welcome to the news quiz. I am Andy Zaltzman. Just quickly, after the Wi-Fi hack at stations this week that resulted in people logging into station Wi-Fi receiving a bogus warning about a fictitious terror attack, I'm a bit worried that my script might have been hacked and tampered with, but I'll worry about that after I've finished explaining why sport is a waste of time and balding lapsed Jewish comedians have no place on radio. Hang on. Our teams this week, as the UN meets in New York, and with health warnings over vegan dairy products, our teams are Team Give Peace a Chance and Team Give Cheese a Pass. On Team Peace, we have Alice Fraser and Robin Morgan. And on Team Cheese, Ian Smith and contributing editor at Novara Media, Ash Sarkar. Following more complaints about the imprecise scoring system on the news quiz, I will just be awarding a grade to our teams as we go through the show, and if they're not happy at the end, they can do a resit. Right, we'll start at the Labour conference with our first question, and it's a missing words question, and this can go to Alice and Robin first. Labour leader Keir Starmer, in his first conference speech since becoming Prime Minister, promised that he offered no answers or hope. Are there words missing, and if so, what are they?
There aren't any words missing. That was completely true.
Oh, okay.
And he leaned into the lectern and was like, and you got a problem with that? He's gone really bolshy now. He's very confident. It's the changed Labour Party. It's very, very exciting.
No, he said there was no easy answers and he couldn't offer false hope.
Correct, yes.
It's an odd thing. He's made a lot of promises. He said Labour's going to do a crackdown on knife crime, give a real living wage, modern industrial strategy, a 10-year plan for the NHS, devolution for the nation's regions and cities, the biggest levelling up of workers' rights in a generation, more teachers, more neighbourhood police, more operations, rebuilding the public service, and all he asks in exchange is £23,000 worth of cravats as free gifts.
He was on the Tuesday, wasn't he? He was on Tuesday afternoon, and then they left Wes Streeting on the Wednesday in the Glastonbury Legends slot of the afternoon. I really enjoyed his speech. I thought it was quite exciting. I enjoyed David Lammy's speech on the Sunday. That was quite nice. He said Britain is back. He said he's been going around the world telling other world leaders that Britain is back, which, given our history... suggesting the empire is back. There was a film about that.
So when he said Britain is back, did you slightly get the sense that around the world everyone just said to each other, nail everything down? Ash, as a political writer, what did you make of the whole Labour conference? They're only a few months into their term of office after 14 years in opposition, and yet they seem to be oddly fractious.
Yeah, it was weirdly fractious. I mean, the thing which is really funny about Keir Starmer is that when he's not punching left in his own party, he really doesn't know what to do. So when journalists are saying, hey, were those £20,000 worth of suits, was that really necessary? Did you have to stay in the £18 million penthouse? He's like, I absolutely did. And it's actually quite rude to my children that you would suggest that it wasn't fair and upstanding. And it means that difference that he played on for years, which is I'm not Boris Johnson, is really starting to melt away. And if he turned out tomorrow to have 7 more unidentified children, I'd be like, yeah, that tracks.
Can I just say one thing? I've been told online a lot recently that apparently I look like a young Sir Keir Starmer. So if there is a child around, I'm going to get some of those... I'm going to get some hand-me-down fleeces, is what I'm going to get.
You could take the Labour government down. If you just said you're one of his illegitimate kids, no one would do a DNA test. Yeah, like that. He's got a new catchphrase, which I think is very clever, because the catchphrase is, change begins. But he hasn't specified when or who is doing it. Just says change at some point will begin. But he's, I think, made it very clear he's not going to be starting that. Or it will go very slowly.
I mean, it was a set-piece speech at a conference, so it's bound to be a bit vague and a bit general. I mean, looking for policy detail in a set-piece speech is a bit like looking for a dolphin in a haystack. That it would be easy to spot if it was there, but it's unrealistic to expect any.
Do you think they're starting to make their plans for the country a bit clearer, Ash?
Well, I think that there was always a plan, right? And the plan was phase 1, during the election, you say, we're not going to have these kinds of tax rises. Phase 2, you get into office and you go, oh, we had to look under the hood and it's so much worse than we thought it was going to be. And then phase 3 is you've got a budget coming along where it's like, okay, we're going to magic some money out of a hat, maybe change some Bank of England rules. And like, what do you know? Maybe we have to do some tax rises as well. And it was quite obvious from the start. But what's wonderful about British journalism is that you've got this whole layer of very elite, very well-paid journalists whose only job is to comment on current affairs like they've just been kicked in the head by a mule. It's like, oh, this is so surprising. Who could have seen this coming? Oh, they're saying it's worse under the hood. Like, oh, now tax rises, what a surprise. And it's like, oh, wow.
Well, that does sort of make sense, because Keir Starmer grew up on a donkey farm, didn't he? So that's obviously where the mules were coming from, I think.
That sounds like my dad.
It sounds like you've misheard tool and mule. My dad was a mule maker. Yeah, they very quickly cut the winter fuel allowance. So they lost a vote at the conference whether they approve of the fuel allowance or not. What I didn't realise is how that vote happens. It's a woman asking who's for, then everyone puts their hands up, and in the space of 2 seconds, she just goes, right, okay, and against, and then the hands up again, yeah, I think that's against. Yeah, it just seems bizarre that we're still doing counting hands.
Right.
I mean, unless you guys think it's good. Hands up for... Also, I feel like there's an obvious solution here. So, a lot of money was spent on Rwanda, which is very warm. We send the pensioners to Rwanda. All the infrastructure has been set up to send the pensioners to Rwanda, and then we can put people seeking asylum in old people's homes. What? Tell me a negative.
Ian, your plans never have negatives.
Thank you.
Another question on conference for Ash and Ian. Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, claimed the government will make Britain the best place to start a what?
I wanted to say fight, but I think it's business.
Well, it could be both, actually, but business is the correct answer, yes. And you know, in terms of kind of trying to rebuild business confidence, do you sense that is business behind Labour?
Well, I mean, this is the kind of funny thing about Labour strategy, which is on the one hand, they're like, we really, really need private investment. We need international investment in this country. And on the other hand, they've been spending the last, few months going, Britain's really shit. Like, we're completely up a creek. Like, please don't expect any good things to happen, because they won't. So if you're an international investor, you're a bit like, I don't really know if I want to put my money here. So over conference, I think there was a memo that went out, which was like, smile more and sound more upbeat. So during the Chancellor's speech, it was like, I really do believe in Britain. We're capable of great things. Not those things that you want, but different things. Cheaper things.
Look, we've got Gary Neville.
Ian, what do you think Britain is the best place to start? If you had to finish that sentence, Britain is the best place to start. What?
A conga line directly over the White Cliffs of Dover.
Yes, this was indeed party conferences and the annual festival of fixed smiles, precisely expressed vagueness, and parties taking on their own fiercest rivals themselves. Starmer has stated his willingness to be unpopular, and to be fair to him, it's very good to see a politician make such a determined effort to live up to a promise for once. So let's move on now to a bit more detail on what was said. A new government bill could require who to snoop into whose whats?
A new government bill could require Keir Starmer to snoop into everybody's wardrobes and pick what he likes the best.
Is this banks can snoop into benefit claimants' bank accounts? Is that correct? In case they are on the take? It's interesting, isn't it? Starmer said he wanted to get more people back to work, and it's already had an effect because one person has. Philip Schofield's back on TV. You cannot keep a good man down.
You've clearly never wrestled against a pope.
How dare you?
In my hometown of Goole, I saw my best bit of benefit fraud. Saw a man on a mobility scooter get an egg thrown at him and then get up off the mobility scooter, run after the kid and punch that kid in the face. That's what happens in Goole. You get to see benefit fraud live. There's a man in Goole who's been claiming benefits as being decapitated, but he's got away with it because he just stuffs his head into his shirt for his passport photo.
Another thing emerging from the Labour conference, the government has said it wants fewer women to do what?
They want fewer women to be an afterthought to men. And speaking of men, aren't men great, Andy? I really feel like there's been loads throughout history. Henry VIII, Henry VII, I could go on.
Fewer women to use exclamation marks in work emails.
Is that a typically feminine trait? I love an exclamation mark.
Maybe that's because you're a new man, so, you know, this is an effeminate quality, but it's definitely that thing of like, okay, I'd really like it if you paid me the £600 that you owe me, but no worries if not.
Any other suggestions, Alice?
Time?
Yes.
The answer is due time. They want fewer women in prisons because apparently not only is it likely to lead to further criminalisation and self-harm, it's also highly unflattering to be in prison. It's not working for women, according to Shabana Mahmood. Everyone from a cool winter to a highly saturated fall colour palette. It's really washed out by a 10 stretch.
So, yeah, this is Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood announcing measures to reduce the number of women in prison on the rather spurious grounds that all the evidence shows that for most women offenders, prison is ineffective, inappropriate, counterproductive, dangerous, damaging and expensive. But apart from that, it works a birthday treat. But politically, it's always a tricky thing for a government, so...
I think it's always difficult because people have this natural sense of fairness, which is if you've done something wrong, you should be punished. But every time you take someone out of their community and into a prison, it's like you create a tear in the social fabric, right? So more damage happens. If you take a woman into prison, the likelihood is that she's going to be somebody's primary caregiver. 2/3 of women who are in prison are survivors of domestic violence, and disproportionately their care experienced as well. So the kind of damage that you're creating, it has this ripple out effect to lots of other people, including children. When you render a child without a primary caregiver, that's a really expensive problem for states. So I think that, yes, this might rub up against people's sense of fairness, but ultimately it's a wise thing. I realise there were no jokes in that, I'm so sorry.
What about if, whenever someone commits a crime, they get to nominate one friend or family member to go into prison with them, and that's non-negotiable? So, yeah, you've been chosen to go into prison with Karen, and you don't even have to know them. You pick a celebrity. just to make it so that people aren't by themselves.
Well, that would make sense. And also, obviously, prisons breed crime like Catholic rabbits. So actually, one of the great problems with prisons in terms of reoffending is there are not enough innocent people in jail. If more than 50% of the prison population is innocent, then by sheer force of personality, they will cure everyone else of crime. It's science.
Or also, if lots of people are reoffending, why don't we make less things illegal? So when they come out of prison and do those things, well, that's not illegal. You can set fire to whatever you want. I feel like I'm suggesting a lot of really good stuff here.
I had a GCSE sociology teacher who said that in all seriousness. And lesson 1, module 1 of crime and punishment. He was like, how would you get rid of crime tomorrow? And this one girl was like, get rid of all the laws, sir. And he was like, bingo.
I mean, I do have a good solution, which is that for all women, in order to stop them sort of costing the prisons money, what you need to do is put them under house arrest, right? And so I suggest you don't even need to give them the ankle bracelet, just give them a 2.5-year-old. And they will plan to go out in 15 minutes and they will still be at home 4 years from now.
Right.
And to merge my idea, it can be a 2.5-year-old of their choice.
Let's move on to the obvious highlight of the conference. This comes in the form of a true or almost true question. Is this true or almost true? Addressing the Middle East crisis, Keir Starmer called for the return of fish fingers.
Almost true.
Correct. Yes, it is almost. What did he actually say?
He said sausages.
Yes.
Which I thought was a profound misunderstanding of both an Islamic culture and a Jewish one.
Yes. I mean, it was clearly. I think it was a slip of the. Do we think it was a slip of the tongue, or
no?
It
was inevitable.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you have a hotel continental breakfast 3 days on the trot. That's too much eggs and bacon. It's too much processed food. It's happened all the time. Liz Truss started going on about pork markets. Keir Starmer has now banged on about sausages. It didn't get reported on, but Wes Streeting finished his speech with, "Give me a dippy egg, I want a dippy egg."
I like that he didn't technically correct himself. He just said hostages afterwards. So he didn't go sausages. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? So it sounded like the start of a list. He basically went, I demand the return of the sausages, hostages, mashed potato. It's very odd.
I thought it was a possessive on the sausages, so it was the hostages of the sausages being held by the sausages.
Return of the Sausages is not my favourite of the trilogy.
Right, at the end of that round, we're doing a grading system this week. Alice and Robin have A-, and Ash and Ian have a straight A. Well, now we have a special round looking at what former news quiz hosts are getting up to these days. Some of them have been in the news this week, so each of these questions deals with a former news quiz host, and this comes in the form of a misleading headline. So, Ash and Ian, what is the real story here? Sandy Toksvig marries Bjorn from ABBA, which is a bit of a surprise on various levels.
Is it marries like officiate
Correct.
the ceremony?
Yes, there you go. Sandy Toksvig has officiated the marriage of Bjorn from ABBA. And that makes me hugely excited that I could one day fulfil my dream of marrying off one of Bucks Fizz.
Yeah, ABBA's Björn Ulvaeus has married his partner Christina Sass in a ceremony that was officiated by Sandy Toksvig, which is the gayest sounding news story to involve a straight couple getting married since Liza Minnelli went to Elizabeth Taylor's 8th wedding on Michael Jackson's Neverland estate.
If I was Sandy Toksvig, I'd have done it as a hologram, see how they like it.
I found out that Bjorn has been married twice before as well, in weddings officiated by Simon Hogarth and Barry Tuck.
Do you think when they said I do, the QI siren come on? Obvious answer.
Let's move on to another news quiz host. Another misleading headline. Nish Kumar, who hosted the news quiz in early 2020, remains a long shot outsider to be new leader of the Conservative Party. But the man who is current favourite, Robert Jenrick, had a bit of trouble this week trying to define what?
Britishness,
yes.
I think it is. I mean, okay, well, the one thing he could say about Britishness is that it's been ruined by ethnic minorities and migrants. If there's one thing that everyone can agree on, is that we're definitely the worst.
I like how he looked at me as if I was going to go, yeah, that's...
But he had so much to say in the green room. Where's his
He's the front runner, isn't he? For the probably going to get the Tory leadership, and obviously he's sort of to the right of the party, which means I guess that side of politics is now sort of a Robert Jenrick, Nigel Farage hostage fest.
I sort of don't understand, what is England's national identity but a sort of a vague patchwork chorus of 1,000 complaints about the weather in 400 different completely incomprehensible regional dialects, working vaguely in harmony towards a brighter future.
Crisp sandwiches. You don't get them in any other country. You know, I look at it and, like, especially the really cheap crisps, which are mostly fat, and you have them in the cheap white bread, and you crunch into it, and a single tear rolls down my eye, and, you know, I can hear Land of Hope and Glory somewhere.
Robert Jenrick's angry about this woke wholemeal bread that's coming over here.
Yeah, it's brown.
Yeah.
At the end of our news quiz host round, both teams are now on a B+. Let's go across the Atlantic now. Keir Starmer, after leaving the party conference, popped across the pond to New York there as the United Nations issued further trademark resolutions, including please stop and love heart emoji. The USA and France called for 21 days of what to happen and where?
I guess that'll be ceasefire in Lebanon,
Yes.
in the south of Lebanon. So, obviously, there's been an outbreak of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah. It's been going on for some time, with rockets being fired into Israel, displacement of tens of thousands of people, and now there's airstrikes being launched on Beirut and preparations for a ground invasion. I mean, there's nothing funny about it, but you have all the sort of wagging fingers from Washington and Westminster going, oh, Netanyahu, will you please stop? And he's just like, no, I will not. Because, yeah, this sort of threatens to create a big regional conflict, which is very bad for everybody apart from Netanyahu's cabinet, because it gives them a stay of execution.
Ian, you've never been Secretary General of the United Nations yet, have you?
Not through want of trying.
It's a personal goal of yours. I mean, any suggestions what the UN might want to do?
Well, they should heed the wise words of Russia, who called for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And I imagine they did that while, giggling to themselves. They'd be like, this is cheeky of us. I think what I'd want to bring up is why the days of a ceasefire are so specific. 21 days. It's a very specific number.
Personally, I'd be more in favour of not a 21-day ceasefire, but a 21 millennium ceasefire, which might be enough time for everyone to calm down. Do you think, is that enough, or do we need a bit more than that?
I reckon on the hour of the end of the 21st millennium, you're going to hear the sound.
That might be the most depressing thing anyone's said on in fact, the Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, said, a united Security Council can make a tremendous difference for peace. Now, given that the 5 permanent members of the Security Council are the UK, France, USA, China and Russia, can you tell me something that is about as likely to happen as unity between those 5 countries?
Someone running the London Marathon but not telling you that they're going to run the London Marathon.
That really puts things in perspective.
I've got something that I think would unite those countries. It's immature, but farts are funny. Farting is funny. Little whoopee cushion under the German Chancellor's seat. He goes on it. Big old fart noise. Putin straight on the phone. Let's withdraw the troops. Keir Starmer's already making a joke. Sounds like Scholz has already withdrawn his troops. They're laughing. They're having fun. So yeah, maybe just bring a load of whoopee cushions into the UN.
The 5 members of the Security Council, the reason why they're the US, UK, France, Russia, China is because they all were on the winning side of World War II. And it's like when you make friends on holiday and you realise you've got nothing in common afterwards. And they're like, shall we keep in touch? And it's like, no, not really.
And it's also not just that, but then for the next 70 years you spend a lot of your time trying to kill each other.
There's another quote from Antonio Guterres, the Secretary-General, describing the UN. He said, we have no power, we have no money, but we have a voice. But I'm in that situation. I've got no power, I've got no money, I can speak. I'm not getting involved in these things. I think the UN's a bit like Father Christmas. It would be nice if more people believed in it, but like Father Christmas, it's hard to take him seriously without a strong military presence.
We have no money, we have no power, but we have a voice. Sounds like what The Guardian does to try and get you to pay them.
Like when the UN ambassador from Slovenia, he's the rotating president, he condemned the poisonous mood at the UN, to which the ambassador from Italy said, maybe we wouldn't be in such a poisonous mood if you'd pitched in your share of the cheque after the diplomatic dinner, Slovenia, to which the ambassador from Slovenia said, I loathe going Dutch, to which the Dutch ambassador smashed a porcelain windmill covered in clogs and took his shirt off. And then the transcript stopped after that.
Israel has rejected a 21-day ceasefire proposed by the USA and France and endorsed by Team GB. Israel boss Benjamin Netanyahu extended a firm middle finger to the concept of compromise as the year-long game of atrocity tennis continues. I think this delicate, intractable and nuanced situation needs Benjamin Netanyahu, very much like a paddling pool needs a piranha. In other words, not at all, unless you want everyone to have to flee for their lives as quickly as possible. Right, at the end of that round, both teams are back up to A-. We finished this week's show with a special round. A number of biblical prophecies have come true this week. Admittedly, they're prophecies from the recently discovered Gospel according to St. Alvin, unearthed by archaeologists last month in a fly-tipped sports holdall on the outskirts of Hemel Hempstead. But still, a biblical prophecy is a biblical prophecy. Our panellists have to tell me how this prophecy ends. Wars will rage, rich men will do ill, words will have no meaning, and then the gasping world will at last receive the second
course at this fancy restaurant. Why do they think we want to spend 45 minutes chit-chatting between not enough entree and too much main?
It's a good answer, but it's not correct. Any other suggestions?
We'll receive the second Neville brother. Phil Neville has been very quiet.
Not the correct answer.
It's a moon.
Yes, we're going to get a second moon.
Second moon to send all the astrology girls crazy. It's a little asteroid, which still seems quite big to me if we're counting it as a moon. It's getting pulled into the Earth's orbit, so for I think it's like a month and a bit. Spare moon.
Yeah. Quite exciting, though, isn't it?
It is exciting. Say what you want about Starmer, but he said change is going to begin. Last 14 years, one moon. 3 months in, he's doubled the moons. Can't say fairer than that.
It's about time as well that I think the moon's had it too good for too long. If you look at like Jupiter and Saturn, they've got lots of moons and they've all got individual names. The moon is so arrogant. So, what's your name? The Moon. I am the Moon. So I think we need to come up with a name for the moon now, because it isn't just the moon. It can't be called the Moon 2.
Can't be. I can't believe this like libertarian moon economics that you're coming up with. Oh, the free market will solve the moon's arrogance problem. It'll get competitive again and start, I don't know, giving women more periods. Like, I don't understand. But would wait for this rash of werewolves that come in every fortnight.
Oh God, yeah, there's going to be so many werewolves.
Starmer, you've done it again.
The moon was discovered by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. Why don't we have a first alert system? It's mad that that's the one that's picking asteroids up first, is the last alert. Basically with enough time to go, oh God, you're not going to like this.
Right, so that means that Ash and Ian are our winners this week with an A+.
I'm sorry, you're very nice people, but suck on that.
We don't have enough triumphalism from the winning sides on the news quiz. We're bringing that. Thank you very much for listening to the news quiz. I've been Andy Zaltzman. Goodbye. Taking part in the news quiz were Ash Sarker, Alice Fraser, Ian Smith and Robin Morgan. In the chair was me, Andy Zaltzman, and additional material was written by Christina Riggs, Jade Gebby, Mark Granger and Sharon Wanjohi. The producer was Sam Holmes, and it was a BBC Studios audio production for Radio 4.